What? Quiet.
I need to repeat everything for you. I need to repeat everything for you. Yeah, you're going to go ahead. Now we're good. Okay. Welcome to Santa Clara City Council special meeting. I'm Mayor Rick Rosenberg. We'd like to call this meeting to order. We have a full council present, Councilman Ben Shakespeare, Councilman Lena Mathis, Councilman Jarrett Waite, Councilman Denny Drake, and Councilman Wendell Gubler are all here. We appreciate those guests who have joined us today. We'd like to begin this meeting with a Pledge of Allegiance and opening comments. We'd ask Councilman Waite to lead us in that. Would everyone please rise and salute the flag? Please follow me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we're very grateful for the opportunity we have to be together tonight. We're grateful for this wonderful community we have to live in and the wonderful people that live here. We ask for thy guidance in this meeting that will make decisions that will be best for our community, and also ask for a blessing on all those around us that may be struggling financially or with sickness, that they will have the help and guidance that they need. Again, we're so thankful for all that we have, and say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thanks, Jarrett. Do we have any citizen communications or appearances? You guys are on the agenda, so probably not. Conflicts and Disclosures Council, does anyone have any conflict of interest or disclosures you need to report tonight? Seeing none, we'll go down into the working agenda under 5A, BMX update. Brooke and Mike, welcome. Sweet. Thank you.
So yeah, we just kind of wanted to give you guys like an update and answer any questions you guys had, but it's been incredible over there. I don't know if you guys have stopped by on like a race night or a practice night, but we're actually setting records at USA BMX that they've never seen before ever in like all the years they've been open. So you're awarded like 100 numbers at a time, because all the tracks are synced together. So every single week you have to do a rider update, and you download it, put it into the program. That way, if any riders move up or any new members, it gets put into the system. That way, when people come to sign up, you pull up their name and you're able to sign them up. So every single person, it has like their own ID number, and they only award tracks 100 numbers at a time. So once you go through those 100 numbers, you have to call into USA BMX, and you have to ask them for new numbers. They have to log in remote into your computer, give you a passcode and all that. So we were open 2 weeks and we went through 100 numbers. So I called USA BMX and I said, we need more numbers. And they said, that's not possible. So they remoted in and they're like, holy cow, yeah, you went through 100 numbers. So then they said, okay, here's your login. And then 2 weeks later, I called them again and I said, we're through 100 numbers. And they're like, not possible. And so he logged into my computer, the remote logged into the computer, and he said, okay, I'll never question you again. So 2.5 weeks later, I called in, I had texted him and I said, I'm out of 100 numbers. And he goes, here, you can just do it yourself. Here's the code. Here's the, so I said, is that good? And he said, let's just say like we've never ever had a track produce that many numbers in that short amount of time. He said Santa Clara BMX is talked about on a daily basis at USA BMX. So I said, awesome, that's awesome. They said you guys are killing it. So that being said, like every track has like track points, and USA BMX keeps track of them. So they rank you throughout the year. So we've been open 12 weeks, I think. So in 12 weeks, we're ranked number 2 out of 7 tracks in Utah. So we're right under Rad Canyon, which has been there for 30 years probably. I don't even know. So it goes off of new rider count. It goes off of rider move ups. So, you know, each track gets like 50 points for carrying a novice rider to intermediate and then intermediate to expert. So we're only 2,000 points behind Rad Canyon, and they've been open all year. So, I mean, it's pretty crazy. If the coronavirus, we'd have been probably 3,000 points ahead of any track. So everybody's like, I really don't think after next year, no track will even be able to touch Santa Clara, like with just points and everything. But so in 12 weeks, we're 2 of 7 tracks. We're ranked 2 and 7 in our region. So it's like all of our whole region, we're ranked 28 out of 107 tracks. And then our overall rank, so there's 306 tracks, you know, in the United States, we're ranked 91. So after 12 weeks. So I'm so excited to see that number next year, because then we'll actually be open for a full year. But USA BMX said they can't even believe that in 12 weeks we're where we are ranked wise. They said it's a miracle. So they said, keep doing what you're doing. But we do, like, we kind of take pride in like building good riders and good human beings. Like that's kind of like, we have like a no bullying policy. Like I'll give people their money back and different things. But we have 3 USA BMX certified coaches. They went through background checks, like all the, what is it? You have to have like CPR certification, like just training certification through USA BMX. So we have 3 of them. And every Monday night after practice and every Thursday night after races, we have clinics for $15. And we pay these 3 coaches to train these kids. And so when COVID hit, they had to change. Usually you have all year long to qualify for state. But since COVID hit, they literally did like 5 qualifiers like 1 week after the other. So all these kids that came to opening night and said, I want to race. I'm like, okay, well, do the state championship. So we had, how many families was up there? I don't even, probably 15 families, 15, 20 families that started on opening day and did every single Monday, Thursday clinic. Almost every single kid won the state championship race. So the announcer kept saying, where are these Santa Clara kids coming from? You know, it was really cool. So like, when I talked at opening night, I was like, I want to produce like nationally ranked kids. Like I already see it in just the short amount of time. Like these kids, it's their passion. Like it's so cool, because some of these kids had never even like rode a bike on a track before opening day. So it's so cool. And then we have parents coming up all the time, like with tears in their eyes, saying like, you gave my kids something to do and you gave them a passion. And it's like there's one mom that comes every Monday, Thursday, and she's a divorced mom and they never miss a clinic and all that. And she's like, we couldn't even talk as a 14-year-old boy. We had nothing in common, couldn't talk. She said, now our whole life revolves around BMX and we talk every day. We're both like learning everything about the sport. And she's like, you saved our relationship. So we have parents like that come up all the time and just, you know, thanking the city, thanking everybody. It's pretty cool.
There's a funny story. So in the summer, one of the houses across the street there called the cops on us. It was late night. We kind of had our music a little too loud maybe or something. So they visit us. It was about midnight maybe, right?
Yeah.
We were working. And come to find out, it was someone that now like comes out every week with their kids. They're like, I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't know you guys. Like, it was late. I was tired. I called the cops on you. The music was kind of loud. But like, she's like,
No, they're like,
now. They come out every week.
Yeah, every Monday, every Thursday. So there's like, we need more stuff like this for kids. Like it's really cool.
But yeah, and then I keep track of all the riders every week, and number of motos we have every race night, just so I can kind of keep stats and see how things are going. But yeah, we average around 18 motos a night, which is individual races. And we average around, last week we hit a record high for local race. We had 90 riders for a local race night. So yeah, besides that, we kind of average around 75.
But last Thursday we had 20, was it 20?
20 motos.
20
yeah.
motos.
And it might have been because it was Halloween race. We kind of did some extra stuff. So, but yeah, it looks like we're kind of consistently getting a little more. And like I said, every week we're signing up new people.
So Ed Fountain is the biggest track in Las Vegas. They average 25 motos a race night. So we're like right there. So, and yeah, it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool to watch. I mean, like USA BMX called us last week and they said they have like a bet going on, like when, because we submit like 50, what was it? Like the other night, it's average of like 32 one-day trials and new memberships that I have to submit because you have to scan them all in, submit it to USA BMX. So they have a bet going on when those numbers will drop, and they haven't. They keep going up. So now they're like, now it's a bet on what's going to be the biggest number that we submit in. So it's kind of funny. Like we haven't seen like less people come. It just keeps growing, which is what we joked about. If we build it, they will come. Like we weren't kidding, and they are.
We're hoping the weather starts cooling down. We'll see if we get a little drop off.
We haven't though. I mean, when the weather cools down, like
yet, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we got a video. This is our opening, we had a soft opening, which was like our very first race night, and then like what was it? A couple weeks later is when we had our big race, our Gold Cup qualifier. So it brought in a lot of out-of-towners. That's what the video I made, and a lot of you guys were there too. We kind of presented the city and stuff. So it was just a little 1-minute video or something I put up on our social media. You guys haven't seen this online yet. Yeah. Any questions?
The track was featured and had a picture of it, and in the last full magazine, they just pulled a picture off our Instagram and threw it up. So it was a nice shot that we had on our Instagram. So that was kind of cool. So
Got a question. Do you have any idea what percentage of racers actually live in Santa Clara or come from Santa Clara?
pretty much, I'd say like 99% of them, right? I mean, they're all from. I thought you
Santa
meant
Clara
from.
and St. George and other
Santa Clara.
Santa Clara?
cities.
Mhm.
Santa Clara. I'd say probably 40%.
Yeah.
Right.
40% of the riders.
I mean, we've got people that drive out from Hurricane every Thursday. We've got people that drive from Cedar City every Monday and Thursday. So,
But yeah, we got a lot kind of stuff on the Heights area. Like we could just ride their bikes down.
yep, bring cash. Their mom's already signed the waiver. They just hand us their cash and get their sticker and head to the track. So, yeah.
Has there been an increased ridership at Virgin? Like, has there been a correlation yet?
So actually the rider count went down a little bit, but I pack that transit van with kids and drive out every Wednesday night. And so just to help bring the rider count up. And I think next year it'll bring it back up. They're going to switch their race days. Because right now we're back-to-back race days because they're Wednesday, we're Thursday. Everybody would rather come race Santa Clara so they don't go out to Virgin. So we're going to try to split it to where they at least have a day or two. So we'll stay Thursdays and then they'll do like either a weekend or something else. But so, yeah. But
Can you also talk about how the curves are pretty unique in the way they were made and kind of an innovation? I was kind of surprised on that. The asphalt curves, like how they were made.
Yeah, so it was kind of, were you there when Bryce was talking about it?
Yeah.
Yeah, uh, we also have a girls coach. Jordy Scott. She's a 3-time world mountain bike world champion. She's won world 7 times. She's our actually girls coach. So every other Friday we have an all girls clinic, which no track ever does, just all, and it's growing every single time we have it. There's more and more girls. So there's so many girls right now that we're splitting it this Friday to break it up into like a beginner and novice and then intermediate and expert, because she has so many. But yeah, no tracks do just all girls clinic. So we're kind of unique in that way also. But her boyfriend is from Australia, and he calls himself a washed up pro. He's 25, but he said like all the tracks in Australia and everywhere he's like raced, they're usually concrete because like they just don't take the time to like asphalt's more expensive, and I don't know what he was saying, but they're just super slick. And he said he's ridden like all over the world, and he said those berms are the best berms he's ever ridden in his whole career. And so he said, who did you pay to have those done? Like what company? Because there's a lot of BMX like asphalt companies that you pay to have them come in and do the corners. But we said, holy cow, like he was like, who'd you have? And we said, those were local, that's a local company that did that. And he said, man, they should be doing every single track that's built. They're that good. So, and even Lance, when he came to build the track, he met with Jared Boy like 3 months before they were going to do them. And he said, start watching YouTube videos and, you know, that's how you're going to do it. And so when it came time for Jared to do the berms, he said, I'm going to try a couple different things that I think will be better than the YouTube videos I watched. And so Lance actually videoed them doing the asphalt berms and sent it to his guys because he said, you guys have been doing it wrong for 20 years. And so there's been 3 people that have asked Jared Western Rock to come do their berms. Do they fly everywhere? Like, can they come to different places? Because the Rock Hills Supercross in Texas, that was a $25 million facility because Worlds was supposed to be in Texas this year, and then COVID hit. So Worlds is top 100 riders in every country come. It's like the Olympics for 16 and under. They had spent the last 7 years building this track in Rock Hill, Texas. It's called the Rockstar Energy thing, $25 million. And COVID hit and they had to cancel it. So, but like Lance was seriously considering paying Western Rock to come fix these asphalt berms in Texas. The BMX asphalt company messed up. And so everybody that comes and rides those berms says it's the best berms they've ever ridden in anywhere, any country. So that's kind of cool too. But yeah.
I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah, the whole facility is just amazing. So
So the next thing we're working on is getting another trailer. We want to have kind of like what we have for the signups, a trailer kind of behind that one there, and we want
to the side of it
yeah, side. We want to run kind of concessions out of that,
and a bike shop.
and then just maybe have some bikes and stuff we can sell gear and stuff. But that's kind of our next.
So there's like a super high demand for gear and helmets. There's just not anything in St. George.
And right now, we've just been throwing up a pop-up tent with coolers and selling candies and chips and drinks and stuff. But it'd be cool if we could just have some warm clothes, just a little window popping out. So that's kind of our next project we're trying to get something for.
Yeah.
But yeah.
The only other thing that we're like hoping to like and just maybe talk about is when we had that big race, we noticed that we kind of needed like a pit row area because like a lot of people don't have to have big areas that they pit in, but just enough to set up an easy up. So we were like thinking like, you know, our construction entrance, like if we could extend that just as a fence like just keep that frontage road, but just extend it as far down as we can. And have that be like a pit row for like the bigger races. And I mean, it would probably fill up even on like local nights too, but the parking would be just at the bottom by the skate park instead of that, you know what I mean? So we were considering that just to try to accommodate for like a little bit bigger races. So, but yeah, I feel like the last one we had 377 riders. Yeah. So that was the last.
We learned to make sure sprinklers popped on up
Yeah.
upper part. We had some people on the lawns and the softball fields with tents, and they're like, sun comes down, sprinklers turned on.
On everybody's bikes and like, yeah.
You know, to learn to coordinate a little bit with the parks.
Live and learn, stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Or-
super stoked.
We
Yeah.
need you to, when Brad's going after some tourism dollars for the parking areas, that could include your pit row stuff as well.
Okay.
But we'll need some stats, just like you just talked to us about in the growth, maybe some charts, some
Yeah,
quotes
we have
from
all that.
the MX USA on the success. That kind of stuff will really help sell it to the committee that selects projects for funding. The more successful this is, especially bringing people in to the area, the better chance I think our funding
Yeah, we
applications
talked to
going
our
to have.
hotels person too and find out if rooms been booked from our codes.
Yeah,
Well,
just,
I know on that Gold Cup, we booked every hotel they had. We had 4 hotels and they were all full from just BMX riders. She called me and said, thank you so much. We haven't had full capacity in like months. So that was awesome.
yeah,
And
that stuff will be really important when you put that application together, so.
yeah. Yeah, no, it's definitely, it's not going anywhere. And that's the cool thing is USA BMX, because that big race was our 4th race in. So USA BMX said they were just prepping for all the complaints, because every single big race, USA BMX gets hounded by complaints after, you know, something didn't go right or whatever. But they said we got hounded by calls, but not one of them were from complaints. They said everybody was so just praising the facility, praising how nice everybody was. And then also we did something different where we all have crew shirts, to where everybody that's part of our crew has a blue shirt on. It says crew on the back. So if anybody had a question, they would find somebody in a blue shirt. And so USA BMX is considering having like that, like mandatory for all the tracks. Because everybody said that was so nice. Because if I had a question, I just found somebody in a blue shirt. So they said that was really cool. Just little things that we thought, you know, would help out. It has been, people have been calling them and saying. And then we had a guy say it was the best built track he'd seen in 20 years from California. Then we had 3 families ask us for realtors numbers from California because they said they didn't want to leave after that race. But yeah, it was a fun weekend. It was cool to see the hype from everybody, and it's still everybody loves it. We have the same families come back every Monday and every Thursday. Like it's just, so it's cool.
It's cool.
But,
Very cool.
yeah.
Any other questions, council? Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Doing an awesome job out there. Keep it up.
Hey, thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, you guys are.
I'm going to get with you too. The design on the parking lot is starting Tuesday afternoon.
Okay.
So we'll get some
Yeah.
feedback,
Which one? Oh,
all of
3
them,
of them.
all of them?
all of them. But if the crew area you're talking about, the pit area, we can blend it into that. We just
That'd be
need to
awesome.
know kind of what you're thinking.
That'd be awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, we've already brainstormed it.
Okay.
And stuff, so that'd be cool.
Cool.
Did everybody get a shirt that wanted a shirt? Did you, like,
Get a shirt, Matt.
everybody, I had enough for everybody.
Matt didn't get a shirt. He takes a extra petite.
Find a large or an extra large? No, there's no extra larges, there's a large and a 2X. Take a large.
Such a fun project to be a part of, and
Large is a 2 and 1 2X. I think 2X is on the very bottom.
show up. Yeah, we got plenty.
Wear it at the gym, Sergeant. Huh?
Do some advertising for the track.
That's right. You do now. Okay, like again, thank you guys. Keep it up. Item 5A2, consider approval of resolution 2020-16R, a resolution authorizing and approving adjustment of the participants' entitlement share under the carbon-free power project power sales contract for the remaining first phase of the licensing period for the carbon-free power project. Gosh, struggling with that word. You doing this one, Brock, or
No,
Jack?
Jack is with
He
us.
signed on?
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
Jack, I need to ask, are you off your pain meds?
I'm off.
Okay, all right, we'll let you talk then.
Okay. The main reason, council, that I wanted to bring this resolution to the council is we've had about 9 or 10 individual cities that have dropped out of the carbon-free project. As each one of those cities drop out of the project, our development cost fee continues to go up. And I've been really nervous about it because, that numbers gets higher and higher. I think when we first started, our maximum cost out of pocket was 300,000 or a little less than that. And it's gone up to, I think 388,000 now. And so the reason I wanted to bring this resolution is I would like kind of a stopgap that if anybody else goes out, Santa Clara City is only going to want to be out of pocket this much. And that's what this resolution will do. If you'll notice at the first portion of it, it talks about the 3,000 kilowatts that we were in at the beginning. And then it talks about the 1.195 kW that we picked up with the jump. Okay, that was our total share, 4,195 kilowatts. When the jump came out of it, we lost that 1.195 dropped off because we didn't have enough participants. So we dropped that off, and so we're still at our, 3,000 kW that we started with at the beginning. We just don't have that jump. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to put a percentage of where we would go on our development cost fee. And I felt like 3% is as high as we could go. I think when we started, let me pull up this other paper here. We were .93%. And in this resolution, I just wanted to say that our maximum out of pocket would be 3%, which would put our development cost fee at $397,200. That if it goes above that, we either get out of the project or I bring it back to council. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. Council, any questions? He's kind of capped the city's financial commitment unless it brings something back to council, correct, Jack?
That's correct. And we have a meeting tomorrow that will be a big telling factor. Doug and the staff went back to NewScale and said, hey, look, we don't know if our biggest fear has been prescription. Are we going to be able to get enough people to come in and take 700 megawatts? Well, when he went back to NewScale, he said, hey, is there any way we can make this a smaller project? Let's put 6 reactors in instead of 12. And they talked about it, and they actually think that they can build the same plant. It'd be smaller, but that they can still stay within that $55 a megawatt hour range. And so tomorrow we're going to be having a meeting on that. And we finally get the full numbers of who's in and who's out. I can't tell you that tonight because I don't have it until tomorrow. But I just wanted to pass this resolution saying this is where we're at. And if we have to go up higher, or if we want to get more KW, I've got to bring it back to you for approval. I just didn't want this all on my shoulders, council.
Jack, may I ask a question? I thought we had until January to make a decision on reduction or withdrawal. It now looks like November 9th is the date.
November 9th is our date. And that's why I'm still counting that the council wants to stay in. It's quite surprising. Hurricane, Washington, all the southern cities down here, Hurricane, and especially Hurricane, they're even looking at taking more. So, I mean, all of us down here at the southern end feel like we've got to have a resource in the future. We just don't have any other answers. And I don't know what everybody else is going to do. We've talked about it. But I think it's still going to be a good project, and I think we ought to stay in. So unless the council wants to get out, I say that we just put our limit at 3%, and we won't go over that $397,200 unless I bring it back.
Council, questions for Jack? Comments? You say this is just giving him something to take to his meetings tomorrow. If it ends up going higher, he'll bring it back. So if there's no questions or comments, I'd look for a motion to approve resolution 2020-16R.
Mayor, I'll make that motion that we approve resolution 2020-16R as presented.
I'll second that.
A motion by Jarrett and a second by Denny to approve resolution 2020-16R as been presented. Is there any question on that motion? This is a money item. Roll call vote. Ben?
Aye.
Rena?
Aye.
Jarrett?
Aye.
Denny?
Aye.
Wendell?
Aye.
The ayes have it. How you feeling, Jack?
I'm doing better. I've had a rough go on this one. Ain't been as smooth as the other one, but I'm getting there.
Okay, man. Well, do what they can. Take care of yourself.
Let's put it this way. I'm glad I've only got 2 knees.
There you go. Okay, buddy. Well, thanks, Jack. Okay, Jack, you're staying on the line for this one, I guess. Gated communities discussion. Rob, is that me?
Sure, you were to Matt on that one. Corey is
Matt-
out
Matt with
sick.
the project,
so-
correct?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Matt.
yeah. Well, let me ask, first of all, do we have a Regal Homes representative on the line?
We do.
Yeah.
Dave.
Okay.
Yes, Dade Rose here.
Hi, Dade. How are you doing?
Doing great. How are you, Matt?
Good. So Dade and I visited briefly, and I actually extended the invitation to him to come and visit with council. And I'll let him talk about his project, but just by way of introduction, Regal Homes is looking at doing a project which would be a portion of the Black Desert Development Project. And one of the things they're looking to do with that project is to have it have interior private roads and be a gated community. And one of the potential challenges with that is our ordinances currently say that no gated communities are allowed in the city of Santa Clara. And that's almost word for word what it says. I mean, it's just one line in the plan development ordinance. So I invited Dade to come, maybe tell us a little bit about his project, what they're looking to accomplish, with the understanding that if the city council, likes what they hear, then one of the things that could be considered is potentially an amendment to the ordinance to allow something like this to go forward. So with that, I guess, Dade, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Matt. I appreciate that. And appreciate the city council letting me have a chance to come and speak with you. I know you're busy, and it's good to be speaking with government that actually works after, a big election. Our local governments really make all the difference. So thank you. Thank you so much. If you don't mind sharing your screen with me, I want to show you a couple of photos. I've already provided these to the planning department, but I've got the same ones up on my computer and I can show them to you, and I think it will help as I go through and describe what we're envisioning.
Yeah, you have permission to go ahead and share your screen.
Thank you. Okay, so what the new concept that we are working with that is very exciting for us relates to build to rent communities. And this is a project, we aren't the innovators, we aren't the ones who've just created this. These are rapidly growing and existing throughout the Sun Belt and up into the Mountain West and as far east as Florida. What a build to rent community is we will go in, we will build individual homes. They're often single family detached homes. Some of them may be attached, but most often they're single family detached homes. And you'll have a 1-bedroom home with 1 bathroom, large kitchen, spacious living room area. And it's all intended to be just a rambler living, just a single home. You can have a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom home as well, and you can have even up to a 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom home. In our case, what we're proposing is it would be single 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom, and then 2-bedroom, 2-bath homes. And then we have a small number of attached homes. I'm showing you a photo of a build to rent community, people that we have worked with, and our plan is very similar. And I just wanted to show you some of these photos to give you a little bit of a sense for it. The idea is that you provide the ability for residents of Santa Clara to come and live in a beautiful home, enjoy a resort swimming pool, great club facilities, beautiful open space, but not have to pay an arm and a leg in order to get into that type of community. This would be marketed very much to millennials, to people that want to make that next step up to buying their house, but maybe they first want to just get their feet wet and live in a nice home and be able to enjoy it. They rent for anywhere from 6 to 12 months. And what happens most often is that people will renew. They really like this program so much. And it gives them the time to build a nest egg so that they can then go forward and buy their own house down the road. You'll also find people that are in transition, maybe a divorced dad or divorced mom that has moved out of their house and they can't afford a big new house, but they want to be able to still have their own separate house instead of living in a big apartment facility. And so they'll come and rent one of our homes. Same thing will happen with some of our elderly population. Maybe they want to downsize. They don't want to have to keep in a home. They want to be able to pull out the equity of their house, be able to just enjoy living, taking some trips, maybe help a grandchild or child out with some living expenses, but they can then rent a home. So this is a very new concept. I think it's not clearly envisioned under the city ordinances, and that's not unusual. That's the norm for many cities. And as they're growing and they're welcoming these projects in, cities are loving them. So I'm going to just pan through and show you a few of these photos so that you can see what happens. So this would be the resort pool we're talking about. And then let's go down. Another picture of the resort pool. You have a nice green open space. People can come and sit. They congregate out in the open areas and truly enjoy their time together. You can get a sense for the way the homes look and work. Very nice houses. Often we're marketed to that millennial generation, as I mentioned, and in particular to people that have pets. It's pretty interesting how so often people will live in an apartment building, but it's very difficult for them if they have a dog and they want their dog to be able to go out and go to the bathroom while they're at work. Where does the dog go? Well, with our homes, we actually have a small private yard that is attached to each house, and there's a little doggy door that's built in each one of these houses so that the dogs can run out and go to do their business and then come back in, and it's all in a private yard. Clubhouse with exercise facilities. Here's a view of the private yard, as you might see the dog. And if you look to the side of the door, you can see that little doggy door. I'm trying to go over it with my cursor. You're able to see that. The inside is beautiful, very nice kitchen, nice family room set up. There's a little picture of the doggy door. So that gives a little sense for what it is. These are not subdivided projects. They are all owned by a single owner. So our company, Regal Real Source, would own the entire land. There'd be no subdivided lots, no condominiumized lots. There would be no homeowners association because we're the owner. In many ways, it's analogous to an apartment building, but instead of having the dwelling units stacked one on top of the other, going up to 5, 6, 7 stories, we've pulled them down and we've turned them into ramblers, and so that you have each person living in their own individual houses. Okay, I'd like to show you. Does anyone have a question first before I leave these photos? Okay, I take that as no. I'm gonna show you our site plan where we're talking about going in, and this is at Black Desert, and you can get a sense for our project. Our project is on about 16.5 acres, and we would have 200 dwelling units. And each one of these little clusters, that's an individual house. That's an individual house. That's an individual house. You'd see all these little single detached homes, and these are what people rent. When people come in to our project, they would go through this main entry area, this tree-lined entry, and they would have an immediate view of our resort swimming pool. This is the clubhouse with its facilities, and they would be able to enjoy that and see how they like it, and hopefully come and rent from us. And I wanted to give you a little sense for what the home elevations look like. Let me get there. Well, these are the home plans. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but you can see that these are single bedroom plans where people will come in, they'll have a big main entry, have a kitchen, have the table there. And this particular house is a 2-bedroom plan. See the 2 bedrooms. But then in many of the others, they're just singles. We actually will have one product that will be, it's a carriage unit product, and that is up above our covered garages. And you would enter up those stairs, and then you can see as you come up the stairs, this is the main family room, living area, and then individual single bedroom, single bathroom. But very nice way to live. These are what the homes would look like. They're earth tone in colors, fit in. They're transitional with a prairie style type of home, and they work well for this kind of product. Now, as far as our main entry goes, this is the pool you saw, and the resort pool, and you can see the dimensions. The length of it is actually 132 feet long. So you can imagine the great swimming facility this will be for our renters and our guests. These are little pool chairs. We have little cabanas. little splash pad out here. And then this is the clubhouse facility. And we have a club room, fitness facility. You already saw some of the treadmills. And then an office where our property manager will work out of, welcoming people, new renters, dealing with guests, that sort of situation. We've got a fire pit, outdoor barbecue. The whole idea is to really create an affordable luxury type of living experience for people. Okay, I think that got me there. So I'm going to go back to the site plan. Do you have any questions about the build to rent concept in general? I apologize, I can't hear you if you're speaking.
Any questions, council?
I've got a question. What is the price range that you would have for these facilities, the 1 bedroom, the 2 bedroom, so forth?
You're looking at anywhere from about $1,200 in rent a month up to about $1,650, $1,670. So it's very affordable.
Other questions, council?
I guess one for the staff is fire protection, being able to access the buildings within your project would be a serious concern. Also, maintenance of the streets, the water, and the sewer in a gated community, being able to access and get to those, they would have to be in accordance with our ordinance for multifamily. To me, what are you doing to address those issues?
Denny, I
Sure.
can.
So we control the roads. It's an investment that we make, and it's really incumbent on us to maintain the roads, much more so than what you would find with a developer of a residential subdivision, because the developer of a residential subdivision is going to go away, right? I mean, we know that their goal is to get in, build homes, and then leave. That's not our MO. We are going to continue to own the property, the facility, and we're renting out to people where they're making a decision every 6 months, whether or not they like what we have and whether or not they want to stay. So for us, our whole marketing angle is we are providing affordable luxury. Affordable luxury does not entail rundown streets and poorly maintained common areas. That just doesn't work. Instead, we have to maintain all of them. As far as the width of the roads, they're 26 feet wide roads, so more than enough for fire and safety vehicles to enter. We have these little walkways between the little cluster homes where each is an individual detached home. That's 11 feet wide. And so it eliminates the need for any fire sprinkling. It's actually much safer for fire and safety purposes, and they can get much easier access if there were a problem in one of these dwelling units, because they aren't running inside a burning house. You know, I mean, you're outside, and these homes, their square footage is relatively small. You go from anywhere from 757 feet up to 990 square feet in size. So it actually is much safer for fire purposes.
And Denny, I'll let Chief address the fire and safety question, but as Dade has pointed out, I think he mentioned that the plan is for these to be private streets, not city streets. One of the things we're discussing with Black Desert to make a part of their development agreement, which of course isn't final, we're still negotiating it. But we believe that our ordinances do give us the flexibility to allow those to be private streets, because where everything there is in single ownership, it's not subdivided, it's not condominiumized, that they're essentially the equivalent of driveways and and private parking areas.
Yeah.
And so that's the approach that the staff is taking to the private street question, is essentially it's their driveways, it's their parking areas, they have to maintain them. And that under our ordinances that we have the flexibility to do that. So as to the safety questions, Chief, I defer to you on that, but that's how we're dealing with the private road issue.
And as a no gated communities in our ordinance, that would require us to change the ordinance to allow gated communities, correct?
Yeah. Yeah,
If
exactly.
I may, let me speak to the gate, and I want to be able to show you where we're talking about it. And Matt gave me a good lead in talking about the private roads and that it's not a subdivided project. It's really just a one owner property. And just like any single owner should generally be able to gate his or her home or his or her commercial building or establishment, that's what we're looking at. So as people will approach, they'll be coming up from Pioneer Parkway. We will build this road, Red Mountain Drive, and then they will come in through this main entry. And there's no gate here yet. You come right in through this beautiful entry. And it's part of our marketing that we want people to be able to see the project. We want them to get excited about it. And they'll see immediately this gorgeous resort swimming pool with the cabanas and the splash pads, as well as the clubhouse and the exercise facility. So they can come and park here in these guest parking. Let me try to expand that even further so you can see it. So they'll come and park here in these little guest parking stalls, and then they can enter the building, the big clubhouse rec center building, and they'll meet with our property manager. And again, we hope that they're coming to want to rent a home from us, but they'll have easy access to that. Where the gates are located, would be one here. You can see my cursor and see that black line, and then one here. So there's easy access, there's easy turnaround ability. There's no issues in that regard. The gates are relatively unobtrusive. They don't block the beauty and the sort of the community feel of being able to come in and sort of see what's there. But gates also provide privacy and safety for our residents. But what we're finding, and what many other real estate developers of projects similar to this are finding, is that there's huge benefits in security and safety for the residents, much reduced vandalism. We don't have vandalism issues. We don't have homeless issues, vagrancy issues, and our rental revenues go up, our property values go up, and those are all benefits for the municipalities in which we are located. And so it's a very nice thing. We have gates in our other communities that work, and we think that this is different enough that while the city ordinance, Matt's right, it does say no gates, but it says no gates for communities. And whether this really fits that definition of community, I don't know. I don't know if that's what was intended, if the drafters really were able to even foresee this type of product at the time they drafted that, where we're going to be the sole owners. We don't have it subdivided. It's not condominiumized. It never will be. We'll be maintaining all the roads. It's our private place. And it's very much like you might imagine if you were to go into a nice apartment project. There's often a gate when you go in before you can access the parking areas or some of the living areas. And our residents are used to that. They're familiar with that. And that's similar to what we have here. It's just the difference is we don't have the dwelling units all stacked up 6 to 10 stories high. We've just made it better, and we put individual detached units, dwelling units on the ground. So that's why I wanted, when Matt and I were speaking, it just seemed like it made sense to speak with you, city councilman, to try to go through and talk about this, because this is just a new enough product in the marketplace that it doesn't seem to quite fit what the definition was or what was intended in the city ordinance when it talks about not having gated communities. It just seems like, again, this is much more analogous to what you would find in a nice apartment project.
Matt, did you have anything to add to that?
I would just say to the council, keep in mind, this is just a preview. Obviously, we're not asking you to approve anything tonight, but I thought it was fair to Dade and to Regal to let them at least let you see what they're wanting to do. I know they're going to, or at least I believe they're going to want to be moving forward reasonably quickly on this project. And so we wanted to give you a chance to see what they're doing, to think about it. We can look at the ordinance and see if we feel like it can be interpreted in a different way, but we're going to have to deal with it one way or the other if you want to see something like this happen. And so we just mainly wanted to give you this preview, and certainly if you have any thoughts you want to share, I'm sure David would love to hear it, but no obligation to do anything tonight. So up to you.
One thing is, I just wanted to go through a little bit of the history of this section in the ordinance. It was put in the ordinance in 2004. And it came about following a redo of the city's design standards, design and construction standards. And there were some issues in St. George primarily because Santa Clara had, at that point in time, very, very few, if any, private streets were developed within the city at that point in time. We really didn't have any planned developments in place other than the Swiss Village. You could kind of call it a PD, but it came along probably even before our PD ordinance. We're having issues in some of the other communities with people who lived on a private street, and they would pay the same gas taxes, the same property taxes as their neighbors that lived on a public street, but they were asked to pay for the cost to maintain their street because it was private as part of their HOA in addition to those, without any subsidy or return from the city for the tax funds they paid on the gas tax. And that was kind of an issue. There was an issue with private streets not being built to a standard, and so you were having streets with a lot of maintenance problems. The HOAs weren't set up well enough to maintain the street, and so they'd come into disrepair, and they would go to the cities and ask the cities to help with that. And so at that point in time, it was a fairly easy move for Santa Clara City to basically eliminate private streets, and then it kind of eliminated the gated communities. When you eliminated the ability to do private streets, all the streets in the city had to be public, and we worked with Public Works to create some smaller street sections. That's when we started building smaller pavement sections on our streets. Was a result of that helped us take our asphalt and our pavement maintenance monies and make them go a little bit farther. This type of a project wasn't included in the discussion at that point in time. We were looking at planned developments with private streets and subdivided type communities, either a townhome project or a PD project like you would see at Sun River or some of these other communities, master plan communities that have individual owned properties, but there's still common areas and private streets. The ordinance, when it was developed, wasn't kind of thinking that way. So I can kind of understand where it's a single ownership, where it's not going to be subdivided, where the only property owner out there is the one entity that's in charge of maintaining everything, to treat this similar to you would the Harmon's parking lot or a commercial area parking lot, because those driveways in any of our commercial projects are all owned by the owner. They're completely maintained by the owner. There's no public dollars that go into maintenance. They just have to be built to a different standard. And so this layout is driveways and parking areas. The streets aren't wide enough to meet any of the public standards. And so if you were ever going to consider a gated community, this probably isn't a bad one to look at. It's very similar to the Hank Isaacson properties on Pioneer Parkway. Sand Cove, what's it called?
Lava Falls.
Lava Falls.
Standpoint, well,
Yeah, because they're much, much smaller than this, but they have a gate on Pioneer. You go through the gate and it's basically driveways and driveways. That's the only thing inside the gate. There's no roads that wrap around that, but because they're very small and tied up next to the street. So it's kind of like that in this one. The ability for the turnaround is a mandate. I mean, if you were going to consider any kind of a gate, there has to be room for a vehicle, including a delivery truck, to be able to get off of the Red Mountain right away, completely out of the Red Mountain right away, and then be able to turn around and get back on Red Mountain if they were unable to go through a gate. I'm going to leave the fire protection and emergency vehicle response to the experts over there. This particular layout, and this layout's not before us. It's more the, do we want gates or not? I know that they have at least one, if I remember right on their plan, a crash gate in addition to the main gate that emergency vehicles can access Red Mountain on
Yeah,
that.
that's what I saw was a secondary, which
Yeah.
we would require a secondary access.
So you'd
That's
still have
correct.
the ability to move your trucks around within the project. Once they got through the gate, they'd have to have adequate space and those types of things as well. So anyway, I just wanted to give you a little history of where that came from. Didn't happen until 2004, happened as a result of the upgrades that we made to the development standards. I think you were
Yeah.
mayor.
And yes, and that one of the other issues that had happened was there had been some private developments in St. George, gated communities, and the big issue became the water and the sewer because the residents wanted the city to maintain the water and sewer, and they had not been put into the standard that the city required. And so they had to make an adjustment in all of that. Who's going to maintain sewer, water, and it seemed at that time that it would be advantageous to just not allow gated communities within Santa Clara. Now, if those things have been rectified, how do you, and if the owner that owns the entire property is willing to do the maintenance on the sewer and the water, understand it's still in the city of Santa Clara, and most of the time, the residents within that are going to come to the city and say, we want that taken care of. So you've got to make sure that the CC&Rs certainly are strict enough and they have enough money and value to take care of your road maintenances and your sewer and your water. To me, those are the issues that came up at that time.
In this case, you wouldn't have an association. You wouldn't need one because it's all owned by the same party. So
So
That's correct.
Contractor's got to be able to cover that.
Hey, Jack, on a commercial project now where you have fire lines and sewer manholes and main lines on the private site, does the city maintain those?
We have been, that was my question, is, are each one of these units gonna have an individual water meter and an individual power meter?
Yes.
So on the water and the power side of it, is the city gonna be responsible for that? Even though it's in your street, your private streets?
Well, no, we would be responsible just to the same extent as the owner of a commercial building that has city sewer and water coming into the building, but we would be paying for the service, just the way anyone else would. And it would be a single payer, so you don't worry about, people not making their bills. We'd be paying for everything.
Okay, so if let's say we had a secondary water break going to one of your units, you called the city and said, hey, we need this repaired. Since it's our water system, we'd come up and we'd repair the water and get it back on, and then you guys would pay whatever it cost us to do that.
That's correct. We'd be in charge of all that.
Okay.
Our renters wouldn't have any direct payments for their utilities.
Okay. Rick, I feel like you. I feel like this is a perfect way to go about it in this situation, as long as they understand that we're in charge of the water line and the power lines, and then the asphalt. I guess it's their responsibility. If we tear it up, we patch it and just charge them for the patch. I really don't see any problems. I think this would work.
The other issue that was discussed, or has been discussed, I know with planning since then, is there's been a movement in the planning arena to discourage gated communities because they tend to disconnect the community. They're not, you don't have the continuous streets and those kinds of things. You have an area of the community that is kind of, you're locked out of, or you're locked inside of, however you want to look at it. But so that was something else that council needs to look at or consider. That was another thing. If Bob Nicholson was here, we would probably get 15 minutes of that.
Bob's a good guy. May I mention one quick thing? On the east of our project, Black Desert is putting in their golf course. So you're going to have the golf course across from us, and there really isn't another community immediately to us, next to us, to tie into. So it seems to work especially well on this site.
And you guys are planning on the trail following the wash along your
Yes.
west as well? And
Yeah.
that is a public trail, correct?
Yes. We're aware of that.
Okay. Anything else to add, Dave?
No, I just appreciate your willingness to talk about this and spend your valuable time. It's really helpful for us as real estate professionals to work with cities that are cooperative and are willing to consider things and give us their straight input. And I'm grateful, because if you find an issue that we haven't thought through, I'd like to be able to address it. And this is a wonderful medium in which to do it. So thank you. And I hope that we can get before you and work this out, whether it's working out with Matt, sort of the interpretation of what a community means. I looked for a definition section, Matt, in the code, and I couldn't find it. And so it seems to me that there is a little bit of leeway there that we might be able to explore. But otherwise, if there's a good way of addressing this, we want to work with you and be productive. And I really appreciate your taking the time tonight. Thank you. It was very thoughtful, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Council, let me come back and ask questions for Dade or comments regarding the gated community section.
I've got a couple, Mayor.
Go for it, Ben.
So I've never understood the no gated communities for a while, and going through this, and I heard talking about, we put in their private streets, the development is the HOA or the owner is to take care of that, but we still charge, if I'm understanding right, correct me if I'm wrong, Jack, we're still going to charge an impact fee on the water and the power and the development side of it.
Yeah, this will be an interesting transportation impact fee calculation. Jack, is the apartment set up as a separate section on the commercial, or are they on the residential like an ERU?
I believe it's on the residential, Rick.
So do they treat each unit as an ERU, or is there a formula?
It's lower.
Because this would obviously be, is it 200 units, Dave? Is that what you're looking at?
Yeah, 200 units.
So it'd be an impact fee based on 200 residential units, not a single owner apartment project. Right? Dak?
Well, I don't know. It depends on how they bring it to us.
And I don't think I need an answer on that. I'm just,
I just wanted to bring it, because that impact fee is going to be for a 200 unit apartment. The water impact fee will be based on the usage. It's going to be a little tricky doing the individual water meters. It can be done. I mean, we've got a lot of application that can be done, but it's probably going to be more expensive doing the impact fee based on 200 3/4 inch meters than a number of 2-inch meters, for example, or 3-inch meters or something like that.
and the water district's already addressed that. So they'll pay per door. They'll pay like an apartment type thing on that. But my point in that is they're going to be individually metered, individually utilitied. They're going to get individual bills, I would imagine, on that from the city.
Not to the individuals. From what I understood,
To
they
the-
would go to
the
the
developer. but they
the
would
single
still be-
owner.
But each unit where it's a separate meter is still going to have the fees, still going to have everything associated to it per unit, even though it goes to the developer as one single payer. My point in this is, as a city, they're still going to be paying all those fees that you pay on an individual home. They're still going to pay the stormwater fee. They're still going to pay the streets fee. They're still going to pay everything that's part of the property tax and the utility bill on those. I believe in that. And so I just wanted to clarify, because we came out and said, well, you know, obviously they're saying that they're responsible, and they should be, that it's private roads and streets, but they are going to be paying along the way. They're going to be paying that impact fee for these units as though it was a residential neighborhood. Yeah, there might be some discounts based on how it's assessed and the units and that. They'd be paying monthly on that utility bill as though it's an individual unit, albeit it's coming from one check from the developer. If it's strictly, we wanted to ban gates, because I think we're moving into a time where gated communities, we're just living in different times today than we were 20 years ago. And, you know, those that are coming here, there is a sense of security and that inside a gated community, that if it was strictly over the design criteria of the street, if that wasn't, we simply in the ordinance could address that in private roads, the streets must meet the standard of the city standard. And I'm not, personally, I don't have issues with gated communities. Lava Falls, I was HOA president by default for the crash of 2008 for like 3 years, because all those went to foreclosure, and those are individually owned. That's a gated community that are individually owned. But a small, I think it really comes down to the size of the community. I look at if Bob's going to say you lose the sense of community in a gated community, well, there's 200 homes in here. I think that, you would have that, Lava Falls is, I think, 14 units is on the Lava Falls side. There's 6 more on the Sandpoint side. So unless I'm missing something, I believe the city from a revenue side is still going to be bringing in the same revenue, correct, as though this was a public street, unless I'm missing something. And yet we require the owner to pay all the maintenance. So from a city side, I think we'd be, tooting our horn and waving, balloons and everything, everything there. And so really, if it just comes down to the design criteria of the street, certainly that to me is a simple thing, is just saying, look, even if they're public streets, they need to meet the design, the criteria that the city has, the city standard. Obviously the fire and that all has to be met. That's they've got to do that anyway. And so I was excited to see this was on. Like I said, I don't have an issue with the gated communities. I think as our environment changes a little bit as we grow, and we don't have a lot of land to grow, but maybe we do, future development or future acquisition, I don't know. But I think this is going to come to us more than just now. Certainly this is, I think is, for me, this is easy. I think it's one owner. We wouldn't have to, I don't even think you'd have to change an ordinance based on what it is, because it is, you could look at this as a commercial development, a hotel, anything like that. But I think we need to have the discussion moving forward as future development comes. If at least for me, I would love to have that. So that's all I had.
Mr. Rose, may I ask a question? Is this a condominium situation? Are you fee simple on any of those units?
No, it's a single parcel that's owned by Regal Real Source, which is the developer. There's no condominiums, there's no subdivided lots. It's just a single parcel. So, we couldn't sell a home if we wanted to. It's just going to be owned by us.
And so
and
you're
we
gonna rent those units on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis, whatever.
our profit model, our marketing model is doing 6 to 12 months. I have filed a conditional use application that would give us the flexibility to rent out a few of them on a short-term rental basis. But that's not what we're looking at, and it would be limited to just a few. I mean, the great majority of all of this, we see it as 6 to 12 month renters, and often they renew with us because they like it so much. It's just a great product.
So we're basically looking at an apartment complex with a gated.
Very similar. It's very similar to that. The way, as I was going through your ordinance and trying to wrap my head around it, I just kept coming back to that. It's quite similar. It's not exact, of course, because we've got the dwelling units on the ground, but we own everything. There's no condominiumized dwelling units. There's no subdivided lots. We maintain everything. The roads are private, just like the parking's private, just like it would be if you were in an apartment building. We take care of the landscaping. We want to have good rec facilities, and I've got elevations and other things I can show you, but I didn't want to take your time, and I thought better to focus on the gates. But it's intended to be really a notch above, and to have people, as they're looking and they're saying, well, I could go rent in an apartment and be up on the 3rd floor and have to walk upstairs or go up an elevator, or I can just walk right into my own house, and I don't have to go up any stairs, and I don't have to go up an elevator, and I don't hear my neighbors on top of my head as their kids are jumping around. It's just a nice way to live at a very low cost for people. The market's really loving it.
Anybody else with comments?
I just had a question. Can you give us the name of a few communities we could look at that are similar to this somewhere else in the country?
Yeah, so if you were to go look at the Christopher Todd communities, and they have a number of those in the Phoenix metropolitan area. They've got, there's some other projects, and I'm trying to remember their name. And it might be like US Rent or something like that in Florida. They've got a number of large ones. They've got a similar community up in Colorado, but the best ones to start with are really the Christopher Todd. They approached us, and we have a construction company. They were asking us to build out their product, and we had some negotiations with them. And at the end of the day, we decided it would be better to go our own way and do our own thing versus teaming up with Christopher Todd. But we really like those guys. They're good guys. They do a great product. If we ever wanted to take a site visit, if it would became, rose to that level, we could all go down to Phoenix and see it. They're beautiful, beautiful homes. But Christopher Todd, that's the one you want to look up online.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
You want some
Council?
more?
Sure.
I'll say I'm not generally a gated community fan. And I'm not for the very reasons that Rick stated at the beginning. I think segregation is a reality. And I think that private streets with the maintenance on them is a reality. However, this might be a project that minimizes those issues. That being said, my biggest concern with it would be is if we make a change to the ordinance, then the next time somebody comes in, if it's not a similar type project, it could be 200 subdivided lots. And we're right back to where we were when we started.
And I would discourage that if we elect to modify the ordinance, that we're very restricted as far as ownership, future ownership, and it's limited to single owner.
That would be my biggest
And that's the language that has been proposed for the Black Desert Agreement, is that you can't subdivide anything behind a gate.
Yeah, we have, obviously the agreement's still being discussed and negotiated. Nothing's final yet, but we have proposed some language to that effect. And honestly, Brock and I were just talking about this a second ago. There are a couple of ways we could go about this if the council wanted to explore it. One way would be to maybe make a definition of community, or interpret the definition of community to exclude what we're talking about here. But I don't know if I'm totally comfortable with that approach. I think the approach that I would probably prefer would be to just take that one line in our ordinance and just make an exception and just say no gated communities unless, and then essentially list the criteria that we would want to see that would be consistent with something like this. And the most important of those in my mind would probably be that it would have to be in single ownership, that it couldn't be a subdivided or condominiumized community. So, I personally, that would be my recommendation as to how we would approach it. But again, I'm not necessarily advocating for doing anything, but if the council wanted to do something, that would probably be the direction I would, maybe nudge you in. So.
Anything else, Lena?
No, that's all.
Anything else? Okay, well, thank you, sir. We will, we'll talk more about this. We appreciate the presentation, Dave, and good luck going forward.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful night.
Okay,
I
council.
got a question there. With our vacation rentals we already have in Santa Clara, do we know, are they continually filling up, or are we having problems that way we're looking at more rental type situation here as well?
From what I understand, the vacation rentals have been doing very well through the pandemic. Have you had a police call yet in them? I sucked you right to the mic right there. You may not have noticed that, but feel it. You can feel that energy force dragging you forward.
I can't think of any serious problems we've had at the vacation properties like Arcadia and Paradise Village and Ocotillo. We haven't even had any real parking complaints recently, and about the only one where we would get that is usually Paradise Village, because they park their side-by-sides and stuff out there on the road and gets a little problematic. Had a couple loud party calls, but nothing that's really been much of a problem out there. In regards to the gated community stuff that you guys were talking about, and I know you weren't making decisions on anything tonight, I did talk to Chief Hansey about this. For us, I look at it, okay, if we're going to look at it like an apartment complex and it's a gated community, from a law enforcement perspective, that tends to lean towards we'll start getting noise complaints or domestic violence calls, or maybe even vehicle break-ins or something like that.
And the gated communities that they have in Ivans is very problematic for us. When we show up, or, I think in an apartment complex, it's probably not as so, but like we'll get alarm calls and different things. And sometimes we're 30 minutes before we can access getting in there. They just don't update the codes. I guess we're supposed to have an override code to be able to punch in so we can get into the gate. And then they just don't update that information with dispatch. So when we get there, we have no way to get in. It's tough to contact someone to open the gate if we can't access it. So from a law enforcement perspective, and we've talked about it, that's our only concern, is that we have a way to be able to access and get in there for emergency responses, as well as the medical calls that we may have to go on over there. So.
Yeah, we require them to have a Knox key system, which is, emergency response key that allows us to get in at any time. So we don't have to worry about changing codes or.
You
trying to
don't get a
figure out what
Knox
the-
key?
Well, and I don't know if you guys carry those with you. I
Yeah,
know,
we
like,
do. And actually,
So when I was in Salt Lake City, a lot of the apartment buildings and stuff like that, they were locked. And they were, converted buildings that were 3, 4, 7 stories tall. But they would have a box out front, and we would have, a code that we could punch in that would unlock, and the key would be in there, and then we could key it in and get in, and that's how we would access it. But it was like a key box that was there for the apartment. So I don't know if they would have something on site. I think unless we're going to say that we want to issue keys to everybody within the department to respond on something like that.
no, we've given 2 keys of our key to the 2 sergeants. The patrol sergeants should have those. So there's an emergency, they have access to that Knox key system in Ivans.
Yeah, and so for us, that's a little bit problematic because we've got like our supervisors right now are off at 10 o'clock unless it's a major problem. And then they would get called back out to respond. But if you just have a couple of patrol guys going out on a domestic and they can't get into the thing because it's 11, 12 o'clock at night, that could be a bit of a problem. So.
I guess I have a comment. I think we need to find out. I mean, is that what we want Santa Clara to become, is just a rental city? I mean, we've got 90 acres in the South Hills that we've approved for vacation rentals. This apartment complex, if we went ahead, I mean, are we going to just change the complexion from a residential community to a rental city and provide that for what is to be the future? I know most people know that apartment complexes become very, very problematic, as they have in St. George and in other areas. Is that what we want the atmosphere in Santa Clara to be? Because I think the more, I mean, this is 16 acres, 90 acres. We've already got 465 approved out there. I'm just asking a question, but to me, I don't think that's what I want to live in. But
Well, and
Sorry.
you're okay. I was going to say, I know we're not looking at a plan, at a site plan or anything tonight, but based on the picture that we did see, when I look at that and then see that they want to request nightly rentals, I look at the parking situation on that, and it is not nearly what we would require for a nightly,
Nightly rental, yeah.
for a
I don't
conditional
think
use
it'd
permit,
make-
because all they're going to do is overflow right onto Red Mountain, and we're going to end up with a Red Mountain lined with RVs and boats and everything else.
well, I wonder how they coordinate with the overall picture out there, which is, that's a resort course with a motel. This would be in direct competition with their rentals, only not nightly unless you give them the opportunity. And then all of a sudden, we're really making that a rental area. But
I mean, apartments is one thing, adding the nightly rental use component might be an entirely
Well, and
different thing.
They were way out in front of where we are, 'cause they haven't submitted a
Right.
zone change app yet. They haven't submitted.
well, I don't have any, like Ben, as far as a gated community, as long as you have the safeguards. I mean, that was the problem St. George ran into, is they had allowed the gated community and hadn't made the standard for the developer to make sure that the water and sewer and streets were up to standard. When they went haywire, the community actually sued over exactly what you talked about, Ben. The city charged impact fees, charged them fees for their services, and then didn't maintain them, and therefore they were liable for that and ended up taking it over.
And I would imagine that's where you could protect yourself. I imagine we could spell it out very clearly that, look, you're still paying these fees, but you're responsible to maintain. In response to what you just said, if I had to pick between the two, I would much rather see a 200 plotted, individual owned, gated community over a rental community. I just would. I think that the fact that you could go in and buy I mean, I know they're 1 and 2 bedroom, but a 2 and 3 bedroom in a gated community with the own, because people with COVID, it's changed the way people look at the way they live. They say, look, if I'm going to be locked down, I'd like to, have a place to have a pool or a yard. I guess in this they'd probably lock down the pool area, but again, it's changed when your public places are shutting down. It's completely changed people's mentality of how they deal with their yards and their community, what they want in their community and what they want access to. So you're right. I mean, if I had to pick between the two, let this be a community that's individually owned and maintained under an HOA.
Well, and I didn't ask the question, what happens if it doesn't work?
Yeah.
What happens to that individual owner if what he's proposing doesn't work?
200 units
We
for
have
foreclosure.
200 apartments with no ownership responsibility. A bank takes it over and we've got a real problem.
Well, it would sell like a hotel or anything
Well, you'd have to
else.
break it out into
it would
individual units.
it would go into that, but it's just a different. Again, that's what I just looked at. I looked at the plat and all excited and thinking, oh, this is, and then it's all rental. And don't get me wrong, Wendell, and the rental market's as hot as it's ever been. We're building 270 of them. They're doing the plumbing of them over in Washington, and literally they are leased out as quick as they can finish them. They're finishing them one building, 27 buildings,
Well, people can't afford to buy a house.
and they're lined up to rent them. And so I don't think that will be an issue, but I agree. I hear on the access for our public safety and fire, if that can be addressed in a way that can, and it sounds like it's there, but I would much rather have the ability to purchase one of these, or somebody purchase and own, and because it's already there. Everything's already to that point, the utility. And
I don't know what Chief Hancy has to say about this, but I know, like, whenever you're dealing with long-term apartment type living, to go back to the vacation property thing, we don't have a lot of calls for service there. So the problems that the vacation properties are causing for us, and I don't know about you as fire, are pretty minimal, because a lot of them are just there for the weekend or a few days, and then they're out, and then it has an overturn. And, they're on a vacation type setting. We're not getting a lot of problem calls there. And I don't know if you're responding on medical issues or whatever, but you start talking about long-term apartment complexes, and that becomes a lot more demanding on EMS and fire and police type services. And those are things that we look at and that we've talked about. So.
That's why, in my mind, the vacation rental projects are resorts, and they're different than an apartment complex. They're not, they're rentals, but they're a nightly rental that's owned individually and built to that standard, and not an apartment complex. You don't think of Ocotillo as an apartment complex or Arcadia as an apartment complex. So don't judge them as one. The apartment complexes we have in Santa Clara, We don't have an apartment complex.
Right.
There's not one. We have a lot of rentals, but we don't have a single apartment complex.
And I can say by looking at this, just from how I look at it from a law enforcement perspective, unlike your typical 16-plex, 2-3-story apartment building where each unit's going for, anywhere from $700 to $1,000, depending on how many bedrooms you have. Like, you see all over St. George and popping up in Washington now. The only thing I can say about this is the nice thing is this seems to be more upscale, and it doesn't tend to draw in some of the, I don't mean this in a bad way, but government-sponsored housing and things like that, where typically we tend to find a lot more problems. Whether it's gangs and, So
But
the nice thing about this does seem more upscale and probably shouldn't attract some of those other problems that we would see in some of the other complexes.
Unless we hit a recession.
But it does bring in the gated community discussion.
Yeah, the gate, I think that's where we need to focus. If we can,
I like what Matt said.
if we can put some language in there on the gates, then they still have to sell all the rest of it. That's not even for discussion. We do have 3 gated communities in the city right now. The 2 that we mentioned on Pioneer and then Bella Bonita, and that was done right about this same time that the ordinance went into effect. That gate, I don't know if that gate's ever been closed in its history, but it's there. And it is a private street behind it. And they have, luckily, I think they've contracted with Jack. Don't you do the slurry seals in there for Bella Bonita, Jack?
They've asked us to, yes.
It's down off Country Lane, right by Sunbrook. There's like 10 lots or something down there. And that's where Sean Bradley built the massive house in the home parade a year or 2 ago. Those are existing gates in the community that came in prior to the ordinance, so we've got them now. How do you do with fire at those 3?
Fire, we have the Knox key system. Any gated community is required to have that, so.
And you just jump the fence on the others, I'm guessing. Because you can see every house from the gates. You're just going to climb the fence or crash through it. That's what them big bars are on the front of the cars, you know? That's the gate opener. Okay. Well, council, what do you want to have staff look at? Do you want us to put some language and bring it back to you? Maybe a potential ordinance change, run through planning commission and come back?
You have to send it through planning commission first.
You want to just say no, leave it like it is and go forward?
I think I'm different than most, so I would like to address it as a gated community in a whole and look at some things, but I don't think that's again, I know we've just talked, I think we're getting what we.
You want to take it out of the ordinance?
Well, I would rather, if we in the ordinance, I don't like Lava Falls at 6 units gated community or 14 units. For an HOA, they make, gates are expensive to maintain, and when you've got a total of 20 units sharing a pool, it's $400 a month for your HOA dues. But if you get into a large community, and if we get a large community that wants to take and create a community behind a gate and have that kind of secure, and they have all their amenities and their parks and everything else, and it's individually owned. I'm not those are the things you're creating your own community, and you're just giving a sense of security to the owners behind that. And I think we're getting, personally, I think we're getting here exactly what we're talking about. These are Rambler apartments is what they are. That's what's being proposed as an apartment complex. And they're higher scale, they're nicer, but it's long-term rental, it's rental, it's not individually owned.
Come back to the gate.
We would be better off approving short-term rentals because we know they're vacation type, and they're here on a vacation and enjoyment if we could get the parking, or individually owned. But I think there's I don't know, from me, I think we're looking at, and I know that's not what it was all about the gates, but which again, I think I would love to visit it and okay, if it's a certain, does it have to meet a certain size of neighborhood? Does it have to be X amount of units or greater to qualify to be within its own gate because it becomes its own community? Do we, how do we look at that? To go in and just gate off a block and have 20 units in it, I get where that would close off the neighborhood and things like that. But if we get, an Entrada type thing out in the South Hills further, and down there, are we opposed to a large gated development? For me, I'm not, but on this one, I'm concerned because I think the gate makes sense in this. And I think our ordinance, it would be easy to justify and say, well, it's one big, you're gating off a commercial type development is what it is, but ultimately it's 200 apartments is what we have.
Again, come back to the gate. What are you going to do with the ordinance language in there right now? Do you want to leave it like it is? Do you want to pull it out? Do you want to modify it like Matt suggested?
For me, I'd love to modify the
Lena?
I'm not opposed to modifying it with certain conditions.
Okay, Jared?
I'm the same as Lana.
I'm mixed. I like gated ideas, but I think that we have approved and continue to approve tons of rentals, whether it be condominiums for the assisted living. It seems to me like everything we're moving towards is a city of rental properties. And to me, I'm not in favor of that. If the community is a residential community and a gated residential community, I find that your property taxes in those are going to be a lot higher, a lot more demand for that kind of a situation. But it takes a certain amount of people to develop it and build it and to do it right so that it is in compliance, so we don't have any issues coming back to bite us.
I go along with what Denny said, but and I also, I think we need to be careful that this doesn't happen in certain locations in Santa Clara. I don't know how you do that, but where they're setting it up in Black Desert, I think is probably the better place of any that we could have it. We had it down here in downtown Santa Clara. I'm not sure that would work. So I don't know how you work your ordinance so that you say one area you can have it and one area you can't have it. Question there.
You can blend it by acreage. That would eliminate a lot of the opportunities about it.
Matt, you have enough to go on?
Yeah, we'll attempt something.
Okay, be interesting to see how planning commission. This may be one of those issues that we have a joint meeting when we introduce it.
May not be a bad idea.
It will require a public hearing too.
Oh, absolutely. But I'm thinking even before we get it to that point, we have maybe a joint meeting with council and planning commission and talk about it as a general plan item. And then walk something through planning commission after that.
I'm excited about the next topic.
Dog park discussion. Who's leading that one?
Brad Hayes.
Go Bradley. Commissioner Drake wants to declare his conflict of interest. Anything to do with dog parks? It's a really close subject.
My mic working? First off, I wanted to congratulate the Santa Clara Ivans Animal Control. They have been doing an outstanding job enforcing our city ordinance. We've had a lot of issues in the past in the cemetery where people were almost fighting, each other over dogs in the cemetery. And with the enforcement of our law enforcement, that problem's pretty much gone away. At Goobler Park, we've had a number of citations issued for people with dogs off a leash. So that brings you to my next subject. I've had a number of people call me and wonder why we don't have it somewhere where people can let their dogs run without a leash. And I know that Washington City has a place, it's called Dogtown, and they have a nice facility called a dog park. I'm not asking for a dog park. But also Washington City's also closed dogs to all their parks. So that's kind of a give and take. St. George has Firehouse Park, they have Snow Park. Birkin has a new dog park. Ivans doesn't have a dog park. They did for a while, but it's since gone away. It was on private land. And Santa Clara doesn't have a dog park. So what I'm not asking you for a dog park, but I'm asking the question if city council would like to have an area that's fenced off, possibly at Goobler Park where people could let their dogs run without a leash. I don't want to do all the amenities of a dog park. Just take an area, fence it off that's already grassed. And you have those options at Goobler Park. I'll just bring those up real quick.
So is this like a small gated community?
Yeah.
Is that what we're looking
Gated dog
at?
community.
For dogs only.
No, okay, just checking.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a couple areas at Goobler. I've got a lot of requests from this area because they like to take their dogs over to the park and let them run. So this is the lower area next to the wash. It doesn't have any improvements in it now. It's just a dirt area. And then we have another area. You slide up, Brock. Let's see. And this is outside Field 3, which is a bigger area. And it could be contained with, dividers in it. So kind of like Firehouse Park where you could have two areas where they run.
Do dog owners understand wrong way signs? Do not.
I doubt it.
Do the dogs understand? Maybe they can teach the owner.
Yeah. We get it further to the south.
Do they know how to dodge softballs?
Right behind her house.
This particular site here would be the easiest to do, but it would be closer in contact with the apartment complex and it wouldn't be as hidden. This is right outside Field 3. So what we would do is take the Field 3 fence and do the 300-foot diameter and then take this area and fence it off. It's about, I can't read that, but 21,000 square feet, give or take.
Brad,
So
what about the one that's downtown? I mean, it's already,
behind Old City Hall,
yeah.
is that one
already
of,
being used by a dog group.
yeah.
Why don't we, I mean, they don't use it every day, all day long. You could open that up as a dog park.
Big enough. Big enough.
Probably as big as the one that I was talking about down here. Yeah, I'm willing to do that. We've never had any maintenance or involvement with that facility. I think the people that run it use it that way, but if that would be okay with the council, that would solve one of the problems, at least downtown.
I mean, my wife's a member of the Southern Utah Dog Sports that uses that field. But I know that there's classes taught down there periodically, but as far as a lot of daily use, I don't think it gets much daily use, and it's already chain linked and grassed, and they do the mowing and the maintenance on it. They pay somebody to do that, but that could.
That's a good possibility, especially for the people downtown, because one of the things I'd like to do is ask that we close Heritage Square to dogs and maybe the new Swiss Park. We've had a lot of issues with dog-related issues in there. So that would give them a
You need
place
an alternate
downtown.
If you close them, you kind of need an alternate place.
Yeah.
What maintenance goes into a dog park?
I've never owned a dog park, but this would probably be the least maintenance because it's hybrid Bermuda, but of course you'll have the cleanup and the overseeding and things just like we do at the ball field. So what we do is just bring our overseeder in here and do it.
Do
But
they-
there's constant, I mean,
Do
if
they
you,
take care of their dog's business by themselves, the owners?
they're supposed
You
to,
hope
It
but,
depends.
but they,
Some will, some won't.
yeah, not everybody.
And it'll turn yellow. I mean, if you ever drive by the one on that firehouse, it's ugly. I think.
Yeah.
It's always yellow.
That's because you can have a yard and you can have a dog, but you can't have both. So whatever you put there, if it's supposed to grow, the dog.
Here's a picture at the Firehouse Dog Park. just wanted to pass it down to get an idea kind of what it's.
You know, the problem with that location is you get a softball tournament going and people out there with the dogs, you could kill people and dogs.
Yeah, we'd have to close it during tournaments.
So the parcel you're talking about, does the city own that?
Yeah. It's right behind the old city hall, just down the street.
Yeah, Jared,
Yeah, so do we water it? And
We don't, I haven't never done anything to it. It's always been taken care of since I've been
The
here.
fly ball or whatever it is, club,
Yeah, you
they
have
do it their own.
agility and fly ball people that train their dogs down there. And it started back in 2001. They've had that when the city offices moved. They got an agreement. I don't think it's enforced. It hasn't been the agreement hasn't been maintained by any.
So we just let them use it, but they mow it and maintain the
They
grass.
take care of all the
They
maintenance.
take care of all the maintenance. They pay the water bill and the power bill that they use for running the.
If you converted it to a dog park, they would, probably that would discontinue.
Yeah, they probably do away with it. They have A-frames and dog runs and some dog walks and stuff on the property that they keep there locked up and then they can train their dogs.
They'd be looking for another location. Yes, if you made that a dog park, they'd be moving someplace else.
But the city does own it.
It is city property,
I mean,
and there's parking there.
I can see it is.
What I like about it, we've never had to do anything to it since 2001.
That would change.
Yeah.
Under
I like that part.
That scenario, that would change.
Yeah.
But if you put grass on the north side of that parking lot, as you, right before you cross the bridge to go across the pickleball courts, you're gonna have to maintain that too.
Yes, yeah.
So you're gonna maintain it.
There's other services that you can use, but grass seems to be the most common here and the hardest to take care of. My last recommendation, this would be the easiest recommendation if we wanted to provide a place. I'm not saying that we do want to do that, but people are asking, so that's why I'm here.
yeah, I've gotten the request as well from residents. So I hear you.
Is it on the other side of you've got over toward behind field one? Is there room to do anything back there? I guess, are we just trying to get up proximity to the neighbors right there, or?
Well,
It just feels like it's gonna be right square. If you put it there, you're right behind a field, which, in the middle of a game, it just.
We would have to close it during the games. We just lock the gates.
Well, and you take out a grass area for spectators to be able to go when it's field time, because they're not gonna go in there and what if it's got,
Right.
yeah.
Center field's the best place to sit.
Hey, it's something that we could bring back with staff and we could go look at options throughout the city, other places that possibly we could do. A dog park,
I think
other
it's good up
city
there, though.
parcels.
That gets a ton of use up there. I just know there's space. I'm just going, okay, do we want a dog park right by the pickleball, right behind the softball? I don't know, maybe that makes the most sense. But
What about the property behind the fire station? What's the plan for that?
That
Like next to
small,
the playground.
that small space we have next to the playground. There's no plans for that right now. There's
The
no
fire
plans
department
for
say they
that
don't want
area.
dogs
I had
parking.
some zip lines designed for that, but I haven't moved forward with it.
We moved the Little League parks, you could use one of them.
Sinking the landslide.
Yeah.
Get fenced the landslide.
So my question is, if this is something that council was interested in doing further research, I just thought I'd bring it to you just because some people are asking.
Have they asked for it to be close to an existing park? Is there a nexus there? Or can it be on city property someplace else?
No, actually, a lot of the people that have been cited are over here in this area.
The people that want it are coming from that area?
Right.
Which would make sense. There's not a lot of grass over there for their dogs to run around.
I didn't want to use the area over by Paradise Village because we had that slated for more pickleball courts eventually. And we had discussed that a few years ago with Fias and Barbara Russick when she was with us. And the city council at that time decided not to do it. So that's why I didn't offer the area on on the south side of the pickleball courts, or the east side. That's what they'd like, though. They'd like that big area.
You could do it inside Hanover. That's just a photo.
That's just,
What about inside the Hamlin Drive Park or Parkway, the vacant property between 400 East and Ivans and the low spot on Hamlin Drive? It's 120 feet wide,
120 feet wide, yeah.
Yeah.
600 feet long, adjacent to utilities, adjacent to the user. There's a trail runs by it. There's walled on two sides between it and any development, not adjacent to any existing park. Until that road goes in, which is still a long ways away, I think.
Yeah, we're also thinking that area might be a tree farm someday too, but it could be both. I mean, it's big enough, it's huge. Between 400 East and Ivans and.
And you got that other piece up on the north end, you could do a tree farm in too. You got
Yeah.
a lot of area there on Hamlin Parkway that you could do something.
The only hard thing with that is if you got infrastructure and everything there, I'm just thinking cost to build
There's water and everything in
Yeah.
400 East.
sitting right there.
Yeah, there's utilities there. I've looked at it for a tree farm. We could access it on the Ivans side.
It would be bigger than either of these sites.
Yeah.
If you
So how
wanted
long
to-
would we have before they build a road? Any idea? 10 years?
Oh, I think you'd have at least 10.
Okay.
Who knows? I retire in 5. Longer than
Dude.
that.
All
But
right.
it's a developer-driven need. Based on the traffic numbers that we're seeing in that area right now, there's no need for it. So, and especially that length between 400 East and Ivans and Rachel. That could be the very last leg of that loop built right there because of those Northtown Road and Rachel and 400 East and Ivans are all right there. And they're big roads that can handle a lot of traffic. So,
And I don't think we'd have any complaints except for maybe where it runs behind this development. You know,
that's the
maybe.
same guys that are wanting it, right?
Same people.
That's what I thought.
Some of them want it.
Closer to the unit.
It's accessible by trail from Google.
I think my preference would be to put it there.
Yeah.
Rather than in those two locations, because you're going to upset. I mean, there's a lot of people, because I walk those trails. There's a lot of people who walk those trails, bike those trails, jog those trails. You could have smell issues. You could have, barking issues. You could have all sorts of issues there. So I like having it removed a little bit from.
It's getting closer to a vacation rental. I mean, there's not a good place right now unless we looked at a site that's one of our open space properties now, like up in the South Hills on your 50-acre park.
What about
That
down
could
by
work. We put them down in the canyon.
what about down by
Coyotes.
the old fort?
I was thinking that too, the bottom of the slope below Mark Walter's house across from
Danny
the
was
farm.
thinking maybe at the top of the slope as well.
That property, they landscape for us.
We've already got grass there.
There you go. No, I was thinking about that flat ground at the bottom by the monument. Down in there would be another place. You'd have to build some parking, but that could be done.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same. I'm not really digging either one of those where we've got all the facilities around it.
I didn't realize those were options, so I just looked somewhere that was close by. And
I'd say
tried to
open it
put
up. Any city-owned property you think it'll work, come back to us.
I agree.
I'll do that.
Okay. Thank you, Brad.
Have them join Southern Utah Dog Sports and then they could use that other field anytime they want.
I'll tell them that.
That's a pretty good deal, that little fly ball area or whatever it is. I hate messing with that.
Yeah, me too.
Are there any potential liability issues to the city with the dog park?
What's that?
The attorney left. I probably know more than, they're probably going to tell us that's why we pay insurance. Right, Brock? Okay. And I say that, but that one is self-sustaining and I have got not one call in 20 years about it. That's a winner. Don't mess with it.
Then he could be in trouble with his wife.
Again, I don't want to threaten that. That wouldn't be pretty. Okay. What's next? Chapel Bridge Park discussion. I'm assuming that's you too, Bradley.
Yes, on the new Chapel Street Bridge on the south side and the east side, the Santa Clara city owns that piece of property that runs along the river. You could bring that picture up, Brock, the first one on there. All right, so we're talking about this piece of property right here. The bridge comes across here. We've got a parking lot already built into here. Here we've got what the mayor tells me is part of the old Boys Pound structure in this whole area here. So we've got Graff Park, which is 11 acres on this side. We've got a trail that runs along this side. So, and maybe the church, orchard and garden over here someday. So it'll be kind of a central location for recreation down here. So what we were looking at is taking this area here. This is about 40 feet in off of the road, this area, and then up to the end of the sidewalk there, and landscaping it and putting 2 pavilions in. Down below this point right here, down here where these trees are, there's a nice little waterfall. And what we'd like to do is build a trail through here and bring it down to here and have a sitting area. We don't want to put anything in the wash that'll be, if we have a flood event or something like that, that'll be washed out, but we might put something in there like a rock or something to sit on down there by the water fountain. Also, if you'd slide up, please excuse my drawings, but okay, so here's that part, and what we want to do with this is we're thinking about putting a small pavilion in here in this space, and this would be to service this area in the bridge, or if we have any events down there. It could also be for races. It could be a place for like a station, refreshment station or something like that. I see a lot of the races eventually coming across the bridge and then going out to the South Hills. So what I would like to do with this little park area is match the bridge columns and the wrought iron that's on there. And I've got some pictures earlier, but what I'd like to do is fence this area around here. There's a concrete wall here and there's a drop off there. So I need to protect that so people don't fall over and then bring the fence over here. This would all be landscape. There'd be another small pavilion here where you get the view up the river all the way to the other bridge at Gates Lane. It's really picturesque. And then bring the trees and stuff up to here to the end. So this is the area we're talking about. Brock says there may be some money left over from the bridge, and he's working on it to see how much funds we might have to do this. So if you scroll up to the next one. Okay, so this is the area where the other pavilion would go, looking up to Gates Lane up here. You can't really see it from the picture, but it goes up there. So this would be landscape with a pavilion here. And go up one more, Brock. Okay, so this is the look of the fence that I want to put. I want to match the brick and bring it around the backside. So it wouldn't be this exact iron, but it would be similar to that. And also the columns on the pavilions would be there. Go up one more. So this is what I'm looking at, but instead of this brown stone, it would be the red stone like the columns. And it would be landscape similar to this, not as intensive as that. That's kind of what I'm looking at it doing up there, and I'm just wanting your feedback if that's something that we'd be interested in doing with that area. I don't know if I have any more on there or not, Brock. I think I'm out. Oh, I've got some bids here for the prices of pavilions.
Brad, was this in the impact fee study?
We have a trailhead and we have trail money to build it, but I'm hoping we can use some bridge funds, what's left over. And then if we need to supplement it, we can supplement it with impact fees. But I'd like to use the bridge funds first.
Brad walked it with me last week. It's a neat spot. The pavilion spots that he's got picked out, I think will turn into be pretty popular.
Yeah.
And I think it will help some of the guys, the bikers and stuff that are visiting the South Hills to have some designated parking on the south side of the river. Right now where they use that undeveloped parcel adjacent to the old Camp Fly property that we're going to have to, as those areas develop, incorporate some trailhead access out there. I think this is a good spot for it. And I like the design he's talked about with the trail. It is a neat waterfall. When they built the bridge, they had to cut a bypass channel. And the bypass channel goes up and it's cut into solid rock. So you've got almost a rectangular channel about 10 or 12 feet wide. It goes up to this waterfall, and it's about a 2.5 foot, 3 foot waterfall that comes off there all the time in solid rock. It's not Boys Pond, but it's probably as close as we're going to be able to get now. Post flood. It's a neat spot. I've seen kayakers go up there and put their kayaks in, come over that waterfall, go down under the bridge, then pack the kayaks up and go over the waterfall and back up the bridge. So it's a neat spot. I think it'd be a nice facility to have.
Also, Jack has offered help from Public Works to do the pavilion foundations and the concrete work, so that'll save us quite a bit of money. And we've done a lot of pavilions similar to this, through the same company at Goobler Park, Black Rock Park, different places throughout town.
So what's the overall cost you're looking? I mean, the pavilions are 25,000. Are you?
The pavilions aren't the expense. The expense will be the iron work and the pillars.
Yeah.
The rock work seems to always be the most expensive. We were going to try to use the same contractor that did the bridge.
Are you estimating 75,000 to do a project like this?
I was thinking 70 by the time we do the landscaping and everything.
And the landscape would be desert trees and.
Mostly trees, just tree line, like the tree line streets with a few bushes maybe around the pavilion, but nothing too labor intensive.
It really is a cool
Right,
area. It's a neat, and it's all there. And I think you've got, from your picture there, you've got water and power and everything. Just
Yeah, everything's
sitting
stubbed
right
in there.
so.
Yeah, I've already met with the power company and the water company. We're all set.
The two structures, concrete structures, the walls that are there are historic structures, have to do with the old irrigation diversion. So they're actually protected structures that have some historical significance. So you've got an opportunity for maybe a kiosk or a plaque or something like that to kind of recognize the old diversion that was right there. And I think that's kind of a neat feature that could really tie in with the Chapel Street, the agricultural preservation stuff we talked about at Chapel Street if the orchard thing goes through.
I think a lot of people just want to stop there and have lunch every day, just to,
Yeah,
get away from work or whatever.
especially if you can walk down that trail and get on that little pad above the waterfall. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
How much money you got in bridge funds?
A little bit. There's last that Debbie told me did a little over $100,000.
How much you got in your impact fee funds that can go toward it?
Whatever we're short.
Whatever we're short.
No,
I don't know what the
we're
capital
okay in our
is,
impact
but
fees,
there's-
but we're getting ready to open a few projects, so it's limited.
I don't think it's a big, I think we ought to, again, it's a space that's really just sitting. So, yeah, I think we need to be cautious on the funds spent on it because outside of sitting under the pavilion and enjoying a trail down to there, it's a historical plaque or that you put in. It's not a huge area, so.
It does take advantage of the parking lot that we put in there.
It does, and it does. I mean, you get a lot of, it is, like you said, the mountain bikers. It would be having plenty of seating and I think makes a lot of sense. I was even thinking, if you had a place for water and that, but outside water fountains are just problematic. So we'll put a fridge with some water bottles in it.
Maybe a jug filler or something.
Yeah.
The 11-acre park that's just on the other side of the bridge, on the downstream side, I mean, we're not really putting any structures in here, so that would also support that park.
That's a shooting range, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Just asking, I can't remember. A lot of coyotes down in there.
Okay, we may have a little flood control money you could use for vegetation too.
Great.
Right.
All right.
Like 5 or I'll have to pull it out and see, but maybe like 5 or 7 grand to help out with vegetation from flood control.
All right. Fantastic.
Council okay with it?
Yeah.
Got a bunch of nods.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Bradley. Staff reports. You guys have been talking all night. Anything left?
From the police,
Who put the traffic counter on Vineyard?
did someone put the traffic counter out there?
It's been out there for like a month.
You mean the speed trailer?
Yeah.
Oh, that's Jesse Hall. You want me to have him move that?
No, I think it's great. It's an opportunity to see how slow you can go. I can't get above 18. I've tried.
Is it not working?
Well, I know I keep if I go above 18, I lose control and end up in Sherry Anderson's front yard.
From the police department, there's not a whole lot. Santa Clara has been pretty quiet for the most part. It kind of flows over a little bit. We did have another incident out at the Black Desert Resort. I don't know if you remember, we brought up that there was a lot of damage and things that were done. I think it was right around Memorial Day or so. They came out this last weekend and JP Excavating was out there. Just had a $1 million backhoe that they had sent out, and it's huge to take care of some of that lava rock. It came out in 3 pieces and they got it all put together. It had only been on site for about 10 days. And then they had some other vehicles out there, like a fuel truck, a Ford F-650, and they had a bunch of different equipment on it, like air hoses and different things. And these people just went out and just trashed them. And so we're estimating about $500K in damages that was done out there, for those folks. And so for us, it just, we're concerned also because that kind of flows into the Santa Clara projects and things that we have going on there. At this point, we don't have a whole lot of anything other than some shoe impressions that were in the dirt. We currently just obtained some video and we're trying to go over that stuff to see if that gives us any kind of leads. But as of right now, that's our only concern, major concern that's on our plate right now. So.
Questions for?
I have one, just not a question, just a comment. I had some residents contact me and asked me if we could patrol the west end of Pioneer. They said there are a lot of vehicles that are coming off the highway onto Pioneer, and often they don't have to stop because there's not enough oncoming traffic. And so they're coming off the highway still going.
So they're
pretty
swinging
fast,
wide and going at a pretty good clip.
swinging wide, going on a really good clip until they hit the light, and then everything slows down. So those residents on the far west end are saying, can we have them patrol that for us or put up a speed sign or something?
Yeah, well, I'll talk with, in fact, I think Officer Hall is on tonight. He's the one that does our speed trailer stuff. Okay. I'll shoot him a message and see if he can't get those moved, and let's maybe get one over there. And he also takes care of our extra patrol. And so I'll have him send out a department-wide blast to try and get some more presence down there for some, traffic speeding complaints and things like that.
Anything else for Reed?
I was just curious, Brock, have you talked to the police department yet about cameras and locations?
I have not.
So just so you know, we're putting in a security camera system in City Hall. And so we want some police feedback on like the resolution of certain cameras. And so you really could like pick out license plates or things like that. So anyways, that'll be
Just,
Brock.
I can just touch base with you on that.
Yeah, I know when we went through, we talked with Chief Flowers. I haven't had another one with him. I was just gonna wait until the cameras got here and we started going through the process, but.
I do know that we've been talking with Parks quite a bit, and I don't know what it's been recently, but we've had quite a bit of damage done. That, like, I think primarily it's been Googler, but we had another incident the other day out at Canyon View at the basketball courts or something. We're starting to get a lot of, damage to the bathrooms and just some of our city amenities at primarily at the parks. And so we've got it set up to where we're asking that they call us and report every time they have those kind of incidents. We've got it down for extra patrol. And I know that Brad and I kind of felt that some of that may have been coming from lava flow, lava ridge after school was letting out, and that we may be having some incidents there at the restrooms from some of the kids when they get out. Because I don't believe it's stuff that typically happens during the ball tournaments where we're having that stuff. So we've had our SRO, Jessica Bate, come over and spend some time when school's letting out, hanging out over there at Googler, trying to hopefully deter some of that from going on. I haven't heard of anything this week at Googler, but I'll let Brad talk about that if he's got something.
Thanks, Reed. Chief, Nancy.
Yes, I have more of a discussion item that didn't really make the agenda. So what I thought, or I was hoping we could discuss, was what we need to do up at our Rachel Fire Station. If you remember back about a year and a half ago, we had the plan for remodel to, add on the outside of the station with living quarters. That plan didn't come to fruition after we realized how much the cost was going to be. And, I remember you guys, I brought it to council and decided to do something different. So currently what I've done is gone through and come up with a plan to add some walls to make some offices, some living space in the current Rachel Station footprint without adding exterior walls or anything that way. Really, if we look at that, it's just putting a Band-Aid. It's a short-term fix for us. It's not really sufficient for our needs, but it does get us down here into Santa Clara in the Rachel Fire Station. I guess what I'm seeking is kind of direction on what the council would like us to do, if they want us to go forward with doing that, knowing that in the very near future, we really need to look at either a new building or making a headquarters building somewhere that will meet our needs with living space, offices, training room, facilities that we can grow into. If we go with this, just adding a few walls and rooms, again, it's just a short-term fix, and we've got the problem that we need to address with meeting the needs for a future station. There is discussion, Brock and I talked a little bit about the possibility of maybe going up on top of the footprint that we've got at Rachel Station. That's a thought, something that we may consider. Cost-wise, I don't know, if that's feasible, but that would give us some living space, training room, day room. It's a great location, but we need to decide what we can do to meet our future needs. And so I'm seeking advice and counsel or direction from the council, what they would like us to do.
What happened with the little group that got together after the bids? And
Well, I thought we were remodeling the station, and the best way to go is to add the building out to the back and do all that. Going up would be, you might as well tear the building down and rebuild it if you're going to go up.
Well, and here's my thought is, I don't really like the idea of having a separate building away from it's just awkward, having a separate building on the same location. I would agree, knock it down and start over, but having a separate building it's two separate buildings trying to work out of is really awkward. I would really prefer having one building, that's going to meet our needs. I think cost-wise, that's probably the biggest factor that we need to consider, how much the council would like us to spend, and what we can do to make it happen for us.
So I thought we left that meeting addressing the second building. So that's news to me on that, because As far as cost wise, we were
Well,
looking at a
Again,
million.
that's not my idea. You know, that's what we kind of came up with, but that's not my optimal.
But I don't think
Preference.
we're not gonna go spend $2 million to, we were $1.5 million, you'd be $1.5 million in the addition that was planned. And you're not getting any more, you're getting very little more space. You're basically spending $1.5 million to do what you're gonna do with a few walls. And so your options are use the space you've got behind it as a secondary building with additional bays, gives your training room and all that as far as cost. Now, I'm just gonna run numbers for you. So at a cost of $600,000 or $700,000, or remodel it at a cost of $150,000 or $200,000, and then put that additional funds into a building downtown. But to go up I just don't think we have the resources to go. You're going to spend. You're going to be better off tearing it down if you're going to do 2-story, which just doesn't make sense. You've got the land there to do it. You've got plenty of room behind there to. Or you just remodel it and then you put those funds into a downtown station. So that's.
I guess the way I look at it is long-term, we really need a new station. Now, whether that is building a completely new station on new property or making do with property we have, whether, you know, it's a separate building or adding on, we explored that route. Council frankly rejected it.
It still comes down to money, doesn't it?
Yeah, the impact fee study for fire, how old is it?
Oh, just barely did
We
it.
just did it.
And it doesn't have the new station in it?
It does.
It does for a future station now.
So, and it's got enough money for the future station in it?
Money-wise,
Or does it have the $500,000 in it?
I can't recall off the top of my head. I should have reviewed that prior to coming for this discussion.
One of the other issues, has anybody approached the Community Impact Board, Gary Zabriskie, and see if they've got any inclination to make a grant for a fire station?
I don't think anybody's asked him about that specific thing. It's always an option. Is there a new station in there?
The one that's in here, it's not the current one that's not, hasn't been updated in here, but the current one we added a station for a few million. It was, I want to say close to 3 million is what we put in there.
So the impact fees we're collecting now include a new station.
Correct.
So we could go to CIB and ask for a grant or a 50-50 loan grant and pledge the impact fee funds to retire it. And look at your new building.
And the next idea would be, do we have property for that? Do we need to purchase property? And then the location.
When Brad goes and looks for the dog park, tag along. I mean, see if you can find a site. Do we have a site for a fire station?
Yep.
We don't have one identified.
We talked about Old City Hall.
Parcels
The old town.
of land.
Oh, the old city hall downtown?
You have that, and we also discussed parcel down across from the old Merc. Gentlemen that we talked about, possibly you could.
You'd have to buy that.
down there. Yeah, you have to buy, there's 2 parcels, plus you might want to buy the parcel behind. So possibly 3 parcels to create the space.
The city, I believe, also has property right across the street from this building.
You know, I could visit with Gary this week and see what I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with their oil and gas revenues now. You know, everything's shut down, but the last I heard, they had loan funds.
About 340 million.
Yeah, they had plenty of loan money. The grant money was really tight. But a fire station, that's always a good one to ask for. So I'd agree with that. I'd find your site. Was the money for the site included in the impact fee study?
I want to say it was. I know it was discussed with Mr. Nyson from Sunrise. I want to say we talked about the cost of the land, and then at the time, the cost of
If it was in the study, you could look at buying a piece.
I know we did
Crappy time.
discuss purchasing property or using the property down here on Santa Clara Drive, the old city hall building.
How much property are we gonna end up with, the house we're picking up on Chapel Street there? I mean, by the time the road goes in, how much property is left?
Well, we only got the right of way from Hathens. So the property from halfway in the house west.
Oh, they still keep that?
Yeah. So we don't end up with anything outside of the right of way down there unless the church comes forth with something. And I think the fire station would eat up that whole site. So that's probably not an option. I mean, you could look at maybe some other properties down. I think the properties across from the Merc and tearing down the old town hall and this piece over here probably be options. You just have pluses and minuses each site. So you just have to probably put them in matrix and see where the best fit is.
The old town hall, when we discussed, gives you options front and back.
Sure.
That was,
Takes away a revenue stream, but we're not buying a property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that,
Loses the dog park, so he's gonna be in trouble.
oh, we could incorporate it in the design. I think
Dogs are fire station things. Dalmatians were. So I'm serious, take those three sites and look at them, pluses and minuses. Talk to Gary, see where he's at CIB and maybe look at a project.
Is redoing, like just tearing down the Rachel station and just using the whole site for something an option?
The thing about the downtown is the way I remember is it accomplishes this expanded the service area to cover this end that you're short right now.
Right, yeah, it could really help us with meeting our logistics.
And you're gonna double your facilities when you build a new one instead of just trying to fit more on that one side.
then you can put more pickleball courts up to Goobler.
And you can get a bigger ladder truck.
Absolutely.
I do think if, and that's the thing, that's the direction I think where our fee study and that went. But if you're gonna look to add walls and stuff in there, I think there's stuff in there you need to renovate. You have your.
So we are ready to go forward. You know, I've got a contractor with bids ready to put living quarters in Rachel Station now, putting in a couple of offices. It does take away our training room. It's really going to be cramped. It's not, again, going to meet our needs for future growth.
Well, when fire or when police, they're not going to use the full upstairs, are they, when they move?
I know Bob would like to keep it, but I know that.
Well, very hard question.
There's staff that we have here that we could use that space over there, that we were using things. So it's one that,
They're
we
going
could
to
use
use
it
the
for
whole
one.
building in Ivans once.
Well, no, I'm talking about where they are now here in this building.
Yeah.
To be able to have some fire department training and stuff
Right.
here.
Yeah, we could use the training space if that's available once the PD shares that upstairs with us.
That building's not that big.
The one on
That Ivan City Hall is not that big. I just finished the underground on it today.
Well, just explore that.
They've got the other building they could remodel, so I don't.
And
I
that's
don't
where,
know.
that's where they're going, is they're going to the old.
They're going
building.
into
It's
the
gonna
police
remodel
going in the
there.
old building.
Is that the plan?
Yeah, so this is be more of a, I call it satellite kind of substation type thing. So I don't think that they would need all the offices, the front staff there, because the front staff's going to be, I would assume would be over in Ivans at that point. So I think there's some things that we could work here to have joint training, but if we need offices, storage, some of the things here, I know Sherelle from Parks, I mean, she has a lot of stuff that's stored all over that we could use for some storage and things that way, so.
Just throwing some options out that are pretty low cost options.
Sure. And, you know, to move forward, like I say, we're ready to go forward with putting these rooms in over at Rachel Station. Got to put sprinkler system in to meet code now. We're going to put living spaces in. So we're roughly around $75,000, $80,000 just to add a few walls and bring it up to the building codes. Is that something that we want to go forward with? I've got the bids ready to be approved by council, or would you like us to use that towards future
Well,
building?
if you did that, spend that money now, and then 2 years from now, you had a new building downtown, would you have duplicate? Would it have wasted the 70 grand?
Yeah, essentially. Yeah,
I'd
because
say wait. I'd at least wait until we find out from CIB.
so the
Council, I'm looking for backup on that.
I agree.
I wouldn't do redundancy until we know, because you can maybe have a new station down here in a year and a half.
and you know, we're guessing it's going to be probably a $3 million building by the time we're done.
What's in your impact fee study? If there's only two in there, you only get a $2 million bill.
Okay, $2 million building.
You're like shopping with my wife.
Hey, we just want to plan for the future and, you know, make sure we're building what.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you need a $3 million building,
We better,
put a $3 million building in your impact fee study.
we'll look at that, see what it is. I think it was somewhere between 2 and 3.
Because that's the problem we got into when you bid Rachel. We had a $500,000 budget and $1.5 million bid.
Yeah. Yep.
Let's
So-
define our need. Let's do a good cost on it. We'll go see if we can get CIB money, use the impact fees to retire that bond and produce what you've got. But if you only got 2 million in the impact fee study, that's all you get.
Okay, so if I understood you right, you're saying hold off on doing what we currently have planned at Rachel Station?
For a month or two, let us do some research, see if we can get something going. I would look at those properties and find a site and see what it's going to cost you to pick it up if you were looking at buying.
I think within a week to 10 days, you kind of get an idea of what the impact board is doing, and we can find out if we can move forward.
I did try and go with the CDBG possibility just recently.
We're
but
not
that's-
we don't qualify for
that.
CDBG.
Yep, no.
We make
Clara
way
or
too much
Ivans
money.
doesn't qualify, so.
CIB is our best shot, and they fund a lot of fire stations.
Well, and they, even if they don't, they'll give us an interest rate that can't
Yeah.
be equal at the bank or anywhere else. So it's,
I mean, worst case, you're a 2% note.
if they're willing.
Okay. So we'll explore some sites, bring them back to council, see what council approves or wants to go forward with. Look at the CIB
Look at your budget.
funding.
And look what's in.
Look at the impact.
We need a budget for your new project, including land acquisition, and we need to make sure that's covered in the impact.
Okay. All right, well, I'll hold off on what we wanted to do then up at Rachel Station.
Look
that right?
Looking at sites, you might want to look at the old port side, the one, that land, flat land there.
You can look at the old fort site. I don't know that it's gonna, you'd have to turn your station sideways to get your pull ins. These guys can't back up anymore. They only go forward. Oh, they have to have pull through.
There's land there and it's flat. I don't know.
I don't know if it's
a good-
deep enough, but it's, you could look at that site, the old fort site,
Where's-
old 91. Where the monument is, the old fort monument.
Oh, okay, where
Highway
the
91.
flagpole and that stuff is?
There's some, city has some property there at the base of the slope
Okay.
that would front on old 91.
Might be a little trickier, like you say, to get in and out of access wise, but we could look at it.
I'd do the same thing with Brad. We're gonna look at any available city property first and acquisition second.
Perfect, okay. Well, there's across the street, the old city hall site,
Why did they put
and then stuff we can purchase.
Okay. Answer your question? Okay.
I think that answers my question, gives me a little more direction.
Anything else, chief?
Our seasonal guys finished up today, so they're done, their last day. They did go on 2 fires that popped up from lightning strikes this past week. You probably see a little bit of smoke puffing up off of Pine Valley Mountain. It's an inaccessible fire, but they're just going to kind of let it do its thing, and they're using aircraft on it as much as they can, and then we'll probably be smoking until we get snow up there. So other than that, yeah, we're just busy going forward.
Thank you. Bradley? Anything else?
Yeah, I just would like to add to what Reed was talking about earlier about the vandalism. At Black Rock Park, we have a continuing problem with people destroying the bathroom. So also at the pickleball courts, we've had a basketball goal that was completely ripped off, laying on the ground. Also had somebody try to set a fire on top of inside the surface, the new surface we put in. At the splash pad, they ripped down the commuter, the telecommunications pole that's on the pad. They ripped that down and broke it. They tagged security fences up at Goobler in 2 different places. They trashed the bathrooms up at the splash pad. I mean, it's and it was almost every other day for a while, and it's slowed down quite a bit at Goobler, but now it seems to be happening a little bit more at Canyon View. Black Rock, that happens every couple of months over there. I don't know what.
Is it at nighttime or daytime?
Usually at night, evenings.
Don't we lock them up?
Yeah, that's what they've been doing at the splash pad. They've been locking the bathrooms at like 5 or when they leave, you know.
Brad,
So
maybe it's just me, but is there a reason why we don't consider putting cameras on those?
that's what we're going to talk about on the 18th. We're going to talk about bringing some cameras from the same company that's going to do City Hall.
Yeah, they came and did a site walk with Brad, so we have a temporary look for cameras. I think we're going to expand those a little bit, but we have some to do cameras at Canyon View and Goobler, and then we'll want to expand to, our other parks as well.
They're not that expensive. I mean, we put up 9 on one storage complex and it cost us about $8,000, but you don't need that many on these. You could put a couple on each bathroom and area. And
I think they would pay for themselves within a year.
pardon?
I think they would pay for themselves within a year, just the damage that we're getting. Especially at Canyon View Park and the pickleball court area.
I think it'll help our law enforcement too, just having cameras around that, if you're looking for a car, I think it gives us gives us more eyes out there, Goobler and Canyon View. And
I met with the landscape for Benelli Drive along the trail there last week. They're starting on that. They actually started on it today. The power department's been pulling in the wire for the controller. The water meter's set, so we're ready to go. Land Trends is doing the job. Sean Jones, he's doing the job, and he did City Hall, so I've worked with him before. He's a good contractor. We've got the pump in at the Swiss Pioneer Park. They've replanted all the trees that have died, and now we're just going to go in and test the pump and see how efficient it is, and then we'll take care of the grass and we'll be done with it. Be done with that park. I've got ACE crews working again for the second term. They came out yesterday and they're working in the Graff Family Park, and they've done an outstanding job cleaning out that area and removing all the Russian olives and tamarisks. Now they're in cutting up all the deadfall. Fire department's going to come in. He's going to have Ty come in and remove those large dead trees out of there and buck them up. And then Tuesday I've got, ACE will have one more day, but Tuesday I've actually got 3 classes coming out this month, and we're going to work in that wash area, making trails, try to get the trail from one end to the other. And then also I was wondering if Rick, if there was any place that you need willows to transplant for the winter, because what I would do, they were talking about doing it part of ACE, but I'd like to do it maybe as part of the opening up of where the beaver dams are in the water area, so there'd be kind of like beaches down there. I was just wondering if there was any need for willows. If we took some of
You
them
want to
out.
cut willows and use them someplace else?
Yes. Yeah, there was a.
Yeah, you can cut all the willows you want and cut them and stem them and bundle them and just put them somewhere where they stay wet, and we'll plant them in January.
Okay. Yeah, I have a place for that. As long as we don't get any floods, I'll put them right down in the park.
Okay.
So that's
Just,
moving along.
Brad, just make sure they're cut to the standard so we can plant them. Sometimes they cut them too little. They got to be in between your little finger and your thumb.
Okay.
And they need to be probably 6, 7 feet long.
So they can,
And they need to be sealed on the upper end, and the bottom end goes in the wet.
do they use latex paint to seal them?
Latex paint to seal the top of it.
Okay.
There's some, I can send you a pamphlet on how to harvest, because they need to be cut and then they need to have all the branches cut off them. So they're just the woody stem.
That would be great. These are plant biology majors, so
They
it would be
should,
great.
they should know, but I can
But-
send it to you.
Yeah, please do. That way we can go over it when we start.
And then DWR can use them, or the ACE crews that come back in January on the Virgin can use them, either one.
I know they were wanting to harvest some, but I didn't know that they had a place in mind. to
Oh, yeah,
put them,
we got another 50 grand to spend this winter planting. So
Okay.
we've got sites identified. So if you've got willows to harvest, have them harvest.
All right.
I'd lots rather see them harvested and bundled up than go to waste.
BMX parking lot meeting is next Tuesday at 2:00 that Mayor had mentioned earlier. We'll meet there by the pickleball courts on Canyon View Drive if anybody wants to come and do a walkthrough. We're going to look at the free parking areas, and we're also going to look at the wall. And then I also emailed the mayor today about the possibility of finding some way to get a trail from the top to the bottom, like you'd asked. So that's Tuesday at 2. We've had about 10 burials since we amended the ordinance, and we haven't had to deviate from the 48 hours. So far, everything's gone pretty good. We even had one in the old section that we got noticed today, and they did the opening today, and it was in a hard part to get to. So we're working hard trying to do the best we can with that. Let's see.
What about the Eagle Project up there at the Veterans site or at the memorial? Did that ever come through?
I've been working with the dad, the young man I don't remember his first name. It's Wyrick is their last name. And they sent me a picture of a stone that would work. And we were talking about getting together for the location, but I approved the stone for the monument, kind of a 2-tone sandstone monument that's like 4 feet tall. So they're working on that. I don't have any more information other than what they showed me last week.
Council, it's a monument to the D-Day veterans from World War II.
Yeah.
That a young man is doing as his Eagle Project. It'll be up by the existing veterans. Just so you know. It's kind of an aggressive project. He was planning on doing it in Normandy. The monument was to be built over there, and COVID made that impossible, and so he's going to do it here instead.
That's all I have.
Okay, questions for Brad?
I was just curious. I read that St. George is like limiting a bunch of their events. Do we need to consider that as well? Or do we have things coming up we need to talk about?
That's one thing we need to talk about. I didn't know if Brock wanted to bring it up, but I can bring it up. St. George has canceled all of the events through the end of the year for baseball, softball, anything that brings people in, their races and things, anything that brings people into town to stay in hotels. But they have not canceled local sports like softball, co-ed softball, slow pitch, that sort of thing. Those are still open for the community. St. George did that yesterday. I got a call from them today. They had a Christmas tournament planned for us in December, so they called to cancel it. So we kind of discussed, what they were doing and why they were doing it. Currently, Santa Clara has 3 tournaments scheduled. We have one Saturday and Sunday scheduled. The teams, we have about 30 teams that are coming in for that, mostly out of Southern California. A few of the people called me today that are coming to the tournament, and the tournament owners, they've already made their reservations in the hotel. They've already bought their plane tickets. I mean, they're committed, and they're wanting me to call them back tonight as soon as I get an answer whether or not, we'll allow them to go ahead and play. Next weekend after that, we've got Rocky Mountain School of Baseball doing their turkey trot tournament, and then SU Baseball has a tournament on the 21st. So that will round us out through the end of the season. the SU baseball, they're more local teams, but they're not all from Washington County. We have teams from Cedar, and Ben can probably speak to that a little better than I can, where some of the teams are from. But I think Brock and I were talking about this today. I think they're going to come anyway, you know, whether we have the tournament or not this weekend. I think the vacation rentals are full. September, Zion's had the most people in the month of September that they've had. They had 521,000 people. I mean, they're here, and I don't know that canceling the 3 tournaments we have left will have an impact on it, but I don't know the reasoning, and maybe you know more than I do about why St. George decided to do it. I just read that it was health department recommendations or something. I don't know what it was. So,
It's the events. The hospital is 90% occupied every bed. There's over 40 COVID cases on the floor. The ICU is basically overwhelmed. They've got they call it they've got a name for it, but they actually have one of the floors in the hospital as a second ICU that they've set up, and one of the ICUs dedicated strictly to COVID. The staff at the hospital is getting overwhelmed, and the stress amongst the staff. They've got equipment, they've got supplies, they don't have staff. So they've asked the mayors to do more messaging to try and get people to help slow the spread, to encourage the masks, to maintain the 6-foot social distancing, and that it's extended into family homes and groups. The transmission isn't happening at school. It doesn't appear to be happening at the events. It appears to be happening a lot in family gatherings. And so they're just telling us, hey, we're overwhelmed over here. We can't do a whole lot more than what we're doing right now. It has to, the curve got to be flattened. They've gone from regular care to crisis care. So they've already made the adjustment from what you would typically expect from a patient in the hospital to less. You're getting less attention paid to you, less nurses. They're in crisis mode already. So they've asked the mayors to do what we can. I think Mayor Pike probably went, that was Tuesday, that was yesterday morning. He probably went to his staff and they just started canceling events, shedding events, effective yesterday. The health department says we need to be careful because we're kind of walking a balance right now with residents. A lot of the residents are sick of it. They're sick of the restrictions. The more restrictive you put on them, the less they're going to obey any of them. And it'll compound the problem. So be careful what you do as far as mandates. Plus the enforcement's impossible. We can't arrest anybody for violating any of the governor's guidelines. And even if we did, the county wouldn't prosecute, and there's no place to take them if you arrest them. So the enforcement, you can't really do anything on the enforcement side. So it comes down to, do you want to cancel the events? You want to try and maintain the guidelines and hold the events? Maintain a little bit of, I want to say normalcy, because it's not really normal to have these type of events this time of year, but it is allowing stuff to happen. It's allowing the economic impacts of the teams traveling here to continue. Though we really haven't seen a lot of economic slowdown right now with Zion visitation. They expect October will be even a new record as well in the park. They're just waiting for numbers. But that stress, the park staff, their Superintendent Brady-Baugh's got the same issues. His staff is super stressed trying to manage that crowd that's over there. So council, if you want to feel like we need to cancel the events, we can give Brad that direction. If we're comfortable having them, we can continue to have the events. There's kind of wins and losses either way.
Brad, normally when we have these tournaments, don't we do it in conjunction with St. George and Hurricane and Washington? Are these people coming to participate just with us or with the whole Washington County?
The one this weekend is coming just to participate on Goobler 1, 2, and 3. The one next weekend, it's a smaller tournament, and they normally will overflow to Mesquite, mostly Santa Clara, and maybe a little bit over, depending on how much they have to other cities. But the one next weekend is primarily a local tournament. SU baseball, depending on the numbers they get, I don't know, they won all 7 fields, so they use Washington, they use St. George also.
So if they've canceled in St. George, is that?
That pushes them over onto the other cities that haven't, like Washington, Hurricane, and Santa Clara.
I wouldn't cancel. I think there's guidance that's been put out there, and I think the level of the hospitals that is, I mean, that's a stress level. I think it's felt across. I mean, that's a hospital for what they're dealing with, but everywhere here is stressed out. I just don't see they can follow the guidance. We can obviously they put a plan together that we've been directed on, but I just don't see the first 2 tournaments are pretty much local teams. I mean, you're gonna have a few come in, but so that's my opinion.
Lena?
I probably land on allowing them to play. It sounds to me like the 3rd week is local teams anyways, so there's no reason for us not to allow them to play. And I don't know that I would be comfortable. I'm with you. I think it's not coming from the outside. There's all sorts of guidelines in place for that, and we're not seeing huge numbers because of people coming from the outside. If we cancel the tournament this weekend, they're all still coming. They have plane tickets, they have reservations, they're all still coming. So my opinion is just leave it the way it is. Make sure they maintain the guidelines, but leave it the way it is.
Sure.
I had to say ditto.
You agree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, speaking as one of the older generation that's in danger, I believe in herd immunity, and it's going to run its course. I think we just go ahead with it and move forward.
I think we ought to go ahead with the ones that are just local, but the ones that are, well, the one that is coming right now from California, I don't think you can do anything about that one. But the one that is in conjunction with the St. George, all of Washington County, I think maybe we ought to cancel because the other people have canceled.
The one this weekend is the California teams, right? The one, is that Rocky Mountain baseball that spills into the other fields? So you're talking about canceling the baseball tournament?
No, that's the one that's been canceled by St. George.
The SU baseball, I think, right?
What I'm saying is if it's been canceled by St. George and we have teams coming that are going to supposedly participate in St. George and here, I think it's
In the
useless.
past, they don't have their schedule out, but in the past, SU baseball has used some of the St. George fields, Washington fields, Hurricane fields. I don't know how big this tournament is. I know they asked to use 7 of our fields for that tournament.
Well, what I'm saying, what I said basically is if you're going to, if half the teams can't play that are coming, I don't see any use of having us be open for them too. How are they going to run a tournament if they can only have half their teams playing? Am I missing something?
I know the fall tournament is a really small tournament for Rocky Mountain baseball. It's not like March Madness or President's Day, and they usually try to concentrate between here and Mesquite for that one, but I don't know how many teams they've got. I haven't seen their schedule yet.
They'll probably limit their number of teams with what St. George has done.
Yeah.
They'll probably go to a limited number of teams that only they can handle and the number of fields that they can use. So I would assume they won't try to bring a full normal tournament. If it was normally 50 teams, they'll probably limit that down to.
I wouldn't expect Washington or Hurricane, either one of them, to cancel based on what they did in the spring. Neither one of them canceled when we did it earlier in the year.
Washington, I'm sure.
I'm okay with going ahead then.
Okay, there's your answer, Bradley.
Go ahead with the 3 tournament.
Make sure they've got their plans in place. Make sure they're trying to
I'll be up there this week.
self-enforce.
All right, thank you.
Jack? Wake up, Jack.
I'm here, guys. Hey,
Anything to report?
can you hear me?
You betcha.
I don't have much to report, just, my guys were just doing normal maintenance. They're really busy. We started on the, crack sealing. So that's going to be happening. We're busy installing, new power to all these new developments and, trying to keep the water and everything else moving properly. So they've been real busy. I'm proud of them. We did have our, stormwater walkthrough audit with the state. And when they went down to our city yard, they said we had the cleanest city yard that they had ever seen. So I was pretty impressed with that. The only thing that they found is next to our fueling station, we didn't have a spill kit in a garbage can there. So Scott took care of that today and got it all put in and signed up. And so hopefully when they do their report, we get a pretty good report from them. So I'm impressed with my guys. They've done a good job down there.
Did Hills at Santa Clara Phase 3 pay their electrical fees?
He paid those in I believe he paid those in that bond, in that payment. He made the big payment.
Well, did he pay for them separate from the bond? Because they're not included in the bond.
No, that's a Chris question.
Okay. Yeah, they're separate from the bond. They're not included in the bond that he put in place. So. Okay, just look at it, let me know. Questions for Jack, council?
Did we get well 6 up and running yet?
No, it's running. It's barely running, but we've ordered new bowls, and then once we get the bowls, we're going to have the motor worked on, so we'll be ready for next summer. So things are moving forward on it.
Anything else for Jack? Get better, Jack.
Yep, I'll be in next week.
Rob?
All right, so the CARES Act funding, to access your 3rd distribution, you have to do it by November 6th. I have requested that for our 3rd distribution. So we'll receive all the funds that were to be distributed to Santa Clara. With that, our business grants that we allocated $200,000. We have a couple more applications that we're going to review tomorrow and see how they are. So we also have a question from one applicant that will decide if they're still eligible or not based on some of the funds that they've received elsewhere. So we're working through that. There was a town hall meeting this last, it was maybe Monday. There's a town hall meeting, and some of the stuff they talked about in their the estimates forecasting. They talked about the forecast in 2020 of jobs ended up down 1.4%, or initially in April they were projecting down 6.2%. But looking forward, and taxable, I'll go on. Taxable sales actually was up 5.8%, and the home price index was up 10%. But forecasting to 2021, they're projecting everything positive. I mean, the jobs to go up 3.8%, taxable sales 6.3%, and the home price index 5.4%. So good look. That way, they spoke specifically also about the CARES Act funds and about using the CARES Act funds. And from Daniel Kowalski, the counselor to the Secretary of the U.S. Department of Treasury, he said in his, that they shared, said, with your CARES Act fund, use these funds in big ways to cover police, fire, EMT, and economic support. Look at ways to absorb large amounts of money to keep the back-end audit simple. So they specified 3 places to use your funds as much as you can was between public safety, payroll, business grants, and residential grants. There's 3 areas that they highlighted to use funds. So
Probably individual.
and it just has to be, you need to have them spent by December 30th. So
What are the residential grants? Are they like to help?
they
with
say
facilities?
it can be prevent eviction and assist in preventing homelessness, avoid paying property taxes, overdue rent or mortgage payments, and utility fees for essential services. So
And then did you say we have to spend the money by December 3rd?
30th.
30th, okay.
Yep, by the end of the year. So
It's really soon.
So, news with Randy shared from the county. The county received a fair amount of CARES Act funds, and one of the things that they're doing is actually purchasing ambulances. And I believe they're purchasing 5 ambulances, and each community or department that provides ambulance services, they're going to give an ambulance to each one of those service areas, with this the caveat that if there is like a countywide emergency, that ambulance has to respond. So we should have a new ambulance here at some point. I don't think they're producing them real quick, but we'll have a new ambulance, so not too long.
Yeah, and if the council needs more information, we can get the chairperson to come in and give a little presentation to show exactly how that's going to be used, but it's not anything really any different than what we currently do. If there's a need in St. George or some of these larger events like Ironman, we already participate in that. We would just have to send this ambulance with the crew and the supplies to, help out with that event. So it'd be an interlocal agreement.
Does it expand our service north and west?
No,
No, not this.
just, we still have our same service area. Doesn't change. It just,
We made any effort with the county on reducing that or getting some?
I have,
Enterprise got?
oh, I've got some things I've talked to Randy about of options maybe to go to them. And this guy was kind of waiting till this kind of happened. Can we get our ambulance maybe and then go and hit them up and talk to them some options of what they can do to help out. So with our covering that service area. So, but it'll be nice. I know we were coming up on an ambulance possibly soon. And so this will help us not have to purchase that ambulance. So we are based on from last meeting, we're researching special assessment areas, working on that. Spoke with Matt on that. So we're got some information on that. We'll bring back at the December work meeting on that. So
We're going to bring a discussion to the work meeting in December on SSAs as one of the funding mechanisms for Vineyard, for the residents, not for us.
So still working on our audit. Hopefully we'll have that audit presentation in December. And then the other thing I have is slated for December 3rd is the Christmas get together.
They can do that.
Yeah.
Zoom party.
That's why I bring it up. So
Get that on the minutes.
Said that out loud.
It's not wrong.
but anywho, I'll just tell you, we can discuss.
All right, figured out. Chris, bail me out. You're done?
I love it.
Okay, council, anything pressing you need to ask the staff? You haven't? Okay, I need a motion to adjourn.
I don't even know what time it is. It's past my bedtime.
That's Mountain Standard Time. You got another hour, yeah. Okay, I got a move to adjourn over here by Denny. Do I got a second? Got a second by Wendell. All in favor, say aye.